Old Navy's Saturday Steal is back with the season's biggest one-day deal. 50% off all jeans, plus kids' tees, and girls' tanks and leggings for just $3. One day only tomorrow at Old Navy and OldNavy.com. Valid 8/5, excludes clearance jeans. $3 deal, select styles only.
What early round surprise is in store for us tonight? How will the injuries to Jay Ajayi and Ryan Tannehill affect the other Dolphins draft stock? And can the dynamic duo of Chris Holland and Alex Blake successfully defend their title? Follow along with the live draft board tonight and listen to our live analysis as we call the action from the 2017 Footballguys Players Championship live on HSFF Hour Draft to see if the $250,000 winner is indeed drafted tonight. Plus, the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship Commissioner Farrell Elliott drops in to offer his critique on the draft as well. We've got a great show for you. Dave Gerzak is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. It's the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for football analysis from the best fantasy players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Dave Gerzak.
I don't like to dream about getting paid, so I dig into the books of the rhymes that I made. Soon as a test to see if I got pulled.
Thank you so much, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Gerzakinetics. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com, right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is indeed the patron saint of fantasy football, the Dizzle, Dave Gerzak. Tonight we have another very special episode for you. It is the Footballguys Players Championship live on High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour Draft, and we will be covering it for you for two full hours. Follow the live draft board at youtube.com/High Stakes Fantasy Football, and stay tuned for Farrell Elliott, the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship Commissioner, who will be hanging out with us in hour number 2 tonight, offering his analysis, his critique, his insight into the draft as well. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions you all might have in there. Connect with us on Twitter at HSFF Hour, at Eric Balkman, or at David Gerzak this evening. You can post on our Facebook page at facebook.com/High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour as well. If you want to chime in and talk with us, give us a call at 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. You can also email the show at the inbox, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, tweets, and emails throughout the broadcast this evening, thanks to our mutual friend and producer, Rob, and our audio engineer, Bryce, as well. I want to remind everybody that the Footballguys Players Championship main event, Best Balls, Dynasty, 100% double up draft experts drafts, and more, all going off at myffpc.com right now. Sign up for some action this weekend. There's a ton of drafts going on. There's a lot of fun to be had, and we obviously kicked off preseason already with the Cardinals and Cowboys in the Hall of Fame game. So time is a-wasting. It is time to jump into a draft if you have not already, and we will be jumping into a draft tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. We'll tell you who's drafting, where they're picking, right after this on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, broadcasting the 2017 Footballguys Players Championship live on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. We have quite the lineup for you tonight. Before we get to it, I want to remind everybody that Planet Hollywood this year offering some great discounts. If you want to come out and play live with us, go to myffpc.com and check it out. You can see all the prices there. And contact Greg Sidoris, who is our live event group host, at 216-299-5390. You can also email him at L like Las, V like Vegas, C like Casino, H like Host, 777 at AOL.com. Let's get to tonight's lineup here, who is drafting in the Football Guys Players Championship. Leading things off tonight is Team Spongeworthy. That is Frank Slad and Jerry Kaforski. Picking second is Biplab Mandel, the House of Cards franchise, selecting second. Hitting third tonight is last year's defending champs in this competition. It is Team Kimura. Chris Holland, Alex Blake picking third. Tyler Lahr operating the Team Czar Lahr tonight. Ken Orovitz is the Heroes and Villains franchise that is drafting out of the 5-hole. Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. That's Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Good to be King is drafting sixth. Right behind them is Duck Creek. Frank Imbornoni, followed by Ryan Heda's Bad Dogs 101 in the 8th spot. The Drunken Puppets, number 3, that is owned by Bill Stavros, and he is drafting 9th tonight. Of course, former guest of the show, Triple J, Jimmy Wagner, picking 10th. Another former guest of the show, the Griffins, Henry Muto, picking 11th tonight. And former co-host of the show, Tony Pung, Taipei Tony, Team 747 is the final drafter tonight. We are through the first round here, Dave, and I am just going to go ahead and post the link here in the draft chat. Once again, we are broadcasting live if you are listening to us live at 9/8 Central tonight on blogtalkradio.com/HSFF Hour. A lot of high-stakes players in the draft room, so check that out. Dave, it's been so long, you haven't even said anything yet. Are you excited tonight? Are you jacked? Are you geeked? Are you pumped?
Bulky, I'm super excited.
Are you really? Or are you just saying that for radio purposes?
Yeah, a little bit of both.
A little bit of both is what I wanted to hear.
Let me tell you, it's nice to actually have some real money on the line here, and these are the real pros.
Well,
these are the real pros playing right now.
It's pros versus pros tonight.
Pretty much. Exactly.
You know, the thing is, why don't we do some of these live draft coverages? You know, I feel like we just go all year and we never do live draft coverage, and now we finally get a chance tonight. Not like we just did 12 straight hours of them over the last 2 weeks, but we get some more action tonight. Like you said, pros versus pros.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
So, to me, the plural of best ball league, if I'm playing a bunch of best ball leagues, I'm not playing a bunch of best balls.
Okay.
So, I mean, I see like on the writing here, and I see a little Alex, and can we just get that cleared up?
What would the plural be?
Best ball. I played a bunch of best ball leagues. I'm playing some best ball leagues this weekend. I'm not playing best balls.
Okay, take out leagues.
What?
It's all about brevity.
I'm playing best ball.
I'm playing a bunch of best ball?
Yeah, best ball format leagues.
Okay. We'll put a Twitter poll on that.
Who says I'm being no one says I'm playing a bunch of best ball. That sounds stupid.
I agree. That's why I say I'm playing a bunch of best balls.
That sounds even more dumb.
I totally disagree with that. We'll do a Twitter poll on that next week. I'm curious.
Best balls.
Best balls. Yep.
People, it's best ball leagues. It's don't say best balls. You sound like a moron.
Okay.
Using the word for testicles, describing the league you're playing. Not a good
balls is the plural for just balls in general. It's not just testicles.
I get it, but it's like you're just out there best balls. Yeah.
Yeah,
love
best
the best
balls. A lot of people say that. It's not just me, man. I didn't invent the plural.
I'm not blaming you. I'm saying
I feel like you are.
I'm more Alex, and it's in print.
Okay.
Let's get past it.
All right, let's get past it. Indeed, we'll get back to it when we do the Twitter poll next week. Okay, so leading things off tonight, Frank Slad and Jerry Kaforski. No surprise, David Johnson goes. Le'Veon Bell to Biplab Mandel in the 2 spot tonight, followed by Ezekiel Elliott. So I think that's where sort of the draft gets quote unquote interesting with the suspension still looming over Ezekiel Elliott. We don't know what's going to happen. Team Camaro, who's won a ton of cash over the last 4 or 5 years in the FFPC. They're not afraid. They ain't feared of anything. They take Ezekiel Elliott 3, and Tyler Lahr takes Antonio Brown number 4. Followed by number 5, Ken Orovitz taking Odell Beckham, and then Julio Jones going to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. So sort of like we talked about earlier, Dave, there is a big 6, or if there is a big 6, the big 6 go in the first half of the first round tonight. Frank Imbornoni follows it up with LaShawn McCoy in the 7 spot. Mike Evans goes to Ryan Hito right after that. Devontae Freeman to the Drunken Puppets. That is owned by Bill Stavros. And then A.J. Green to Jimmy Wagner. We do have a tight end going off the board tonight in the first round. His name is Rob Gronkowski, and he goes in the 11 spot to Henry Muto. And rounding up the first round is Jordy Nelson, the 112, to Taipei Tony Pung. No surprises for me in the first round. A little bit, sometimes I think people sign up for the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour draft to make a splash, do something a little bit different, but it's chalky conservative in the first round here is the theme, Dave.
Yeah, people are just getting their bearings. They're taking the players they want early on. They're not going to go crazy.
They are not going to go crazy. We're going to go crazy on the phones right now. Let's go to the 718 and talk to our first caller of the evening. 718, you are on the air with Dave and Balky. Who is this?
What's up, Dave and Balky? Triple J, Jim Wagner.
What's up?
Jimmy, how's it going, man? How are you? First of all, before we get to your draft, how did you like your spot tonight, the 10 spot? How do you feel about the 10 spot this year?
Yeah, you fucking kidding me? The 10 spot's so shitty. It's just a terrible spot, man. I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I'd rather. I know it sounds crazy. I would have rather been in the. Excuse me?
I said, look at who you got in the second round. You should be ecstatic. Everybody else is taking it like picks 7, 8, and 9.
You're 100% correct. I am ecstatic about Melvin Gordon on the turn. I was hoping to either Gordon
worked out for you.
or Jersey. Not Jersey. What's his name? Jordy Nelson.
Yeah, you get Jordy Nelson going in the first round. We'll get to the second round analysis in a little bit with Melvin Gordon going too. But let's talk about that first round pick that you had. Was it anybody else than AJ Green there? Was AJ Green your guy at the 110?
I'm happy with AJ Green at the 110. I was sort of hoping that Shady was going to drop to the 110. I've seen him drop that far, but they snatched him up pretty early. I've drafted AJ Green actually before Mike Evans. I drafted him, I think, as early as the 5th before, so I'm okay with AJ Green there. I think he's going to have a great season.
Jimmy, you have participated in Pros versus Joes before. You are adjusting tonight. Well, maybe not adjusting because you haven't done any Pros versus Joes this year. But I'm just curious, as far as everybody watching all the live drafts that we did with the Pros versus Joes over the last 2 weeks, everybody's going to be watching this one tonight. How do you think that this draft is going to differ when you're talking about 12 pros as opposed to 6 pros and 6 Joes?
I think in the Pros versus Joes, there's a lot more risk-taking than this draft. I think here, the money's real. You know, we all paid to be in this draft. We're all trying to win this draft. We're all trying to win this league. And whereas in the Pros versus Joes, you need to make that bam move. You can't really be conservative.
Jimmy Wagner, the Triple J from Jimmy, I should bring this up too. Talk a little bit about your website and the book that you have out on Amazon right now.
Yeah, baby.
Hey, Bulky? I gave you a shout out because I really do think the Pros vs. Joes rundown. I think everyone should listen to that show and watch the live draft boards. It's really, you guys do a great job every year, and it's been going on for a while. It's definitely helped me improve my game.
Well, thank you.
The book is really. It's for beginners, like people who just aren't grasping fantasy football yet. Help them out, get them into it. So my pick is coming up here, and I've been sniped so
I want to hear that
round already. Like I was really hoping after they took Jimmy Graham, I was really hoping Greg Olsen was going to make it to the 310. So now I'm sitting here at the 310. I got my RB1, my wide receiver 1. The question is, who do I take now? So I'm just going through my process. What everyone else has.
Right, Falky?
No, but we might be on a bit.
He's up in like a minute. Yeah, you're up.
Yeah, you're on Jimmy. You're on deck right now. We're gonna have
I
Bill Stavros
know.
make his pick. And Bill's probably not listening, so go ahead and give us the 2 guys you're considering.
Who do you like?
So my question here, like sitting here, I don't know if Drunken Puppets is listening, but it's sort of like Jordan Reed. Is that toe injury serious? We're not talking concussions anymore. To get a premier tight end at the 310, and am I really going to be considering him a real tight end? Or should I be considering – I think I'm grabbing Jordan Reed right now. I'm going to roll the dice on it, hope that his toe gets better. And I'm really not playing him as a tight end. I'm going to be playing him as a flex. And obviously Jordan Reed can produce monster numbers.
Yeah, and the fact that he is the fifth tight end off the board, too, certainly has to make you feel pretty comfy, as the kids say, Dave. And by kids, I mean me. So you get the rainbow start here from Jimmy Wagner, A.J. Green, Melvin Gordon, Jordan Reed. So that's an impressive start, and we will catch up to what's been happening in the last two rounds while we've been talking to Jimmy Wagner, of course, Triple J, as he is known in the FFPC. We do have to get to a quick break. Jimmy, I want to ask you to hang on because I want to talk to you a little bit after we take this here. But we have we're going to cover the second round and the third round here, tell you what happened right after this, and we're in more with Jimmy Wagner, Dave Gerzak, Eric Balkman here on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour covering a live Football Guys Players Championship draft here this weekend. It is Eric Balkman, it is David Gerzak, and we are talking to Jimmy Wagner, of course, Triple J, as he is known within the FFPC. And Jimmy, I know you've done a bunch of drafts this year. Has anything stood out for you in either the satellites or the Football Guys drafts that you think is an interesting trend that high stakes fantasy players are following?
You know what? Drafting the rookie running backs a lot sooner than I'm really comfortable drafting them. I mean, if you just look here, Leonard Fournette's gone, Christian McCaffrey's gone, and then some other rookie running backs. I think Ezekiel Elliott from last year had everyone's hoping to catch that lightning in the bottle type situation, and clearly they all can't be there. So you guys grab me now on the second pick.
Yeah, we have you started off with Green, Gordon, and Reed, and you are once again on the clock here. So I have a feeling you're going to double up at one of those positions. Which position is it going to be here? Who is the pick here for Jimmy Wagner at the 403?
That's a very good question. Looking at the rest of the guys, what they have, what they need. See, traditionally I would grab probably Jarvis Landry here, but with the Tannehill news,
it's interesting. This is the kind of thing that people are going to be facing until we get more news about Jay Ajayi's injury, more news about Ryan Tannehill's injury. This is compelling stuff right here. Deep in thought, Jimmy Wagner.
Yeah,
this is where we get the golf course analysis.
Terrell Pryor. How do we spell his name?
Pryor. And Pryor is the pick, Jimmy? Is that who you're rolling with here?
Yeah.
All right, man.
If I can get him in.
You can. We'll
punch him in the chat
room. Just type him in. Tell him that Balky was talking your ear off on the show and you couldn't get the pick in. And we'll be able to handle it. Or Dave will. And by we, I mean Dave.
We'll get it fixed for you guys. I apologize. I'm saying
no. Don't worry about it.
So many things going on. I didn't realize how much is there. I apologize.
No, that's all right. Don't worry about it. We're fixing that. So the pick at 403 is Pryor. So, Jimmy, this is interesting because you went back-to-back Washington players here with Reed and Pryor. Are you buying into the Washington offense this year?
I'm buying into Terrell Pryor. Like I said, Jordan Reed was more of a high upside, but it could be a true bust. I could have just thrown my third-round pick away. It is what it is.
Well, that's interesting. Okay.
I don't know. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I mean, after the first and second, third round, Jordan Reed could give me round one numbers without a doubt if he can stay on the field and stay healthy. It's that simple. Terrell Pryor, I really have true faith in him that he's going to be producing wide receiver one numbers this year. Yeah,
Jimmy, We want to let you get back to the draft here, but final question. You talk about the Reed pick and how you might have thrown it away, but there is a lot of upside there. How much upside are you taking in the Football Guys Players Championship when you're trying to win a $250,000 prize?
I'm looking for players like Jordan Reed. I'm looking for those guys that can any given week give you 40 points, and Jordan Reed can definitely do that. Like I said, I'm higher on Jimmy Graham. I'm higher on Greg Olsen. Clearly Travis Kelce. I'm actually not as high on Rob Gronkowski. I've just been burnt by him too many times. But I'm very happy with the high upside, and I think there should still be some decent tight ends in the later rounds that I can pick up to actually play tight end instead of having to play Reed as like a super flex.
There you have it. Great analysis on his first 4 picks. Jimmy, thanks so much for joining the show tonight. We certainly appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the way, and good luck in all your drafts this year, man.
Thanks a lot, guys. Talk to you later.
Jimmy Wagner. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at Triple J's Report. You can check out his website, triplejsfantasyfootballreport.com. And, of course, the book on Amazon, Triple J's Fantasy Football Report, the ultimate 2017 high-stakes fantasy football guide that is on Amazon right now. And it's getting great reviews, Dave. Rave reviews on Amazon. Yeah,
that's good.
So check that out. A lot of great stuff there.
It's kind of a cool little logo you have.
From, yeah, it is. Well, it's not my logo, but it is Jimmy's.
He had.
Yeah, he had. Sorry. I apologize. Let's move on and talk about round number 2 here, Dave. Michael Thomas is Tony Pong's pick at the 201 to follow up with Jordy Nelson. Of course, Henry Muto took Dez Bryant. Henry Muto, Dave, told me before this draft started he would be taking Dez Bryant at the 202. And you ask why?
Why?
Because Henry says he's got to get his guys.
Yeah.
Actually, he said that Balky says to go get your guys, so that's what Henry did there. So,
by the way, Wayne Ellis asked if Henry will be drafting Dez the year after he retires in the chat room.
It's certainly possible. I mean, you
That's funny because Calvin's been getting drafted here and again.
Yeah, it might not be in the second round, but it certainly could be a draft pick again. Melvin Gordon, we talked about with Jimmy Wagner taking him at the 203. Travis Kelce is the second tight end off the board to Bill Stavros tonight, followed by a pair of running backs. Jordan Howard goes to Ryan Hida, and then Jay Ajayi goes to Frank Imbornoni at the 205. 206. Amari Cooper goes to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich at the 207, followed by Todd Gurley, and then DeMarco Murray. So even though DeMarco Murray is working that hammy, he's getting the massage, he's getting the oils, he's getting everything that he needs there to try to get that soft tissue injury healed so he can get back on the field so he doesn't get Wally pipped by Derrick Henry. DeMarco Murray, Dave, still goes to Tyler Lahr here in the second round. And then completing the second round of action, T.Y. Hilton at the 210 to Alex Blake and Chris Holland, DeAndre Hopkins to Biplab Nandel, and Brandon Cooks to Frank Slad and Jerry Kaforski to complete the second round tonight. Dave, again, not a whole lot of surprises, only 2 tight ends off the board as we move into the third round. Anything catch you by surprise in the second round?
Well, according to ADP, Dez is a little bit of an early pick, but that's fine. I mean, if that's who you like better, if you prefer him to Cooper, T.Y. Hilton, Hopkins, and Cooks and guys like that, that's fine.
Yeah, and I have seen that before. I mean, I've seen Bryant go ahead of all those guys, so it's not like a really strange pick. But I think you're right. Again, in a very chalky draft thus far, Dez Bryant does stick out there in the second round.
So talk to me a little bit about Jay Ajayi. What's the injury news? I didn't really hear that at all.
It's a concussion.
Oh, that's right. Okay, right now that's right. He just got a concussion.
And we don't want to say just a concussion because it is a brain bruise. But yeah, no other injury other than that, and they're holding him out of practice right now. Now the thing is, like I agree with you in the statement that it is just a concussion because historically players usually come back from those faster than a broken bone, than a soft tissue injury. Right, exactly. The concern now is you got to get him back on the field because the longer he's out, the more concern there is about this being a quote unquote bad concussion. So I think that's the worry here. But I have no problem drafting Jay Ajayi in the mid-second round. Yeah,
your comment, the Murray thing. You're reading a little bit more and more about how Henry's supposed to be getting more looks and he's supposed to possibly double his touches from 2016. And it just makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, Murray's a year older. He had a lot of touches last year. Henry didn't have enough. Henry was inexperienced, probably not a very good pass blocker. And he's a super pedigreed back. I'd be real nervous about expending a second-round pick on Murray with Henry, lurking over his shoulders like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm probably not going to get DeMarco Murray in too many drafts this year. But you know what? The last time I said that was his big, massive season when he churned out all that yardage. So who knows? I've been wrong once or twice before. Hopefully it's not this year again. Jimmy Graham leading the third round off here at the 301 to Frank Slad and Jerry Kaforski, followed by Doug Baldwin as the second receiver drafted by Biplab Mandel. Greg Olson is the fourth tight end off the board at the 303, and then Demarius Thomas to Tyler Lahr right after that. A massive running back run here in the third round. Isaiah Crowell to Ken Orovitz. Lamar Miller at the 306 to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Ty Montgomery, the third straight running back drafted by Frank Imbornoni at the 307 to pair with McCoy. Well, not pair, but to go with McCoy and Ajayi. Leonard Fournette off the board to Ryan Hita at the 308. And then Christian McCaffrey, the second rookie running back off the board tonight, second rookie overall, as he goes to the Drunken Puppets, Bill Stavros' team tonight. We heard Jordan Reed go to Triple J live on the air, and then the third rookie running back of the third round is Joe Mixon. He goes to Henry Muto as his number one running back. Keenan Allen to Tony Pung as he goes receiver to start things off. So McCaffrey climbing, as his ADP has historically been in the fourth round. Over the last month or so, I would say, in the FFPC. Leonard Fournette holding steady in the third. The guy that is climbing, Dave, is Ty Montgomery. I saw him go. I don't know if I told you this. Football Guys Players Championship last night. Ty Montgomery, 202.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me.
Okay. Talk a little bit about why that does not.
Well,
the 202 or the third round?
You know what? I was watching the local news tonight.
Okay.
And here in
Northeast Wisconsin.
Picturesque Northeast Wisconsin.
Right.
And the local sports guy, there's the little thing that goes across the bottom, and it says, Jamal Williams getting first-team carries, and they're just talking about that as like this. This is something that's happening. I mean, if a non-pedigreed running back, Montgomery went to Stanford, he got drafted highly enough, but he was drafted as a wide receiver.
Right.
What was his? What do you average, like 8 carries? I mean, not yards, but I mean. Eight carries a game, 10 carries a game.
They did not really take the training wheels for him off for him last year.
And I think I was trying to watch the interview, but stuff was going on. But I think Jamal Williams was even saying, he's like, I want to start. I want the ball. I want to be the guy.
Right.
And so I mean, that's a great attitude to have. I just think that you're paying a lot for Montgomery early. I know I keep saying again. And I also like Leonard Fournette. The more I'm thinking about Leonard Fournette in that situation with Bortles, it's just it's just so terrible.
Do you think they're just going to pile 8 in the box? And
I just think it's very challenging when you're not scoring a lot of points to do well as a running back. You're not scoring touchdowns. What are you doing? Versus Mixon, I think actually is a guy that I think should be ascending. Actually, he should be moving up. They're talking about him getting more and more carries.
He is on the semifinalist list for the Ascended.
I think Mixon should be going ahead of Fournette.
So there you go. Great rookie running back analysis, and especially when we have 3 of them going off in the third round here. That is always something to pay attention to. We are paying attention to the receivers going off the board in droves in the fourth round here. A couple of quarterbacks to tell you about, too. We're going to get to a quick break, but we're going to tell you all about it right after this. I'm Eric Balkman. He's Dave Gerzak. This is the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour right here on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. EB and DG on the HSFF Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network, broadcasting the 2017 Football Guys Players Championship live on HSFF Hour Draft. We have a slew of great high-stakes players in here tonight. A lot of them have won a lot of money doing this. So it is very compelling radio, especially if you plan on doing an FPC or an FFPC satellite draft. This is, in my opinion, not to sound biased, even though I am, this is must-see TV on youtube.com/highstakesfantasyfootball. Must listen to radio. That's debatable since it's me and you, Dave. Let's get into the fourth round here. I talked about all the receivers that are going off the
draft board go by on YouTube. Let me tell you.
Oh, some people love it.
It's amazing.
Just great. It's like honestly, what it's like doing a draft without doing anything. It's like a self-driving car.
I would say it's like watching paint dry, but it's actually like watching someone, like a person that you can't see, apply stickers to a board.
In a way, it is like watching paint dry because you're seeing the colors go up there.
Yes, these little rectangular strips of paint get put on the board.
And then when we cut the feed, the paint is dried. I think that's how it works. Right. So let's get into the fourth round here. Tyreek Hill is the first player selected, and Tony Pung starts receiver. So 4 straight receivers for him again in this format, 1.5 per point for tight ends in this format, and 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and 2 flexes. So he can start each and every one of those receivers every week if he wishes to do so. Aaron Rodgers continuing the rainbow start for Henry Muto as he goes tight end, receiver, running back, and now quarterback at the 402. Terrell Pryor, we heard Jimmy Wagner draft him live on the air. Back-to-back Washington players there with Reed and Pryor. Tom Brady is the second quarterback off the board to the Drunken Puppets. Bill Stavros, his number 1 quarterback, is Tom Terrific. Devontae Adams, the number 2 receiver for team number 8 tonight, Ryan Hita, followed by Sammy Watkins falling to the mid-4th, Frank Imbornoni making him his number 1 receiver after 3 straight running backs. Then you see Golden Tate as the 3rd receiver, drafted by Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Michael Crabtree, another receiver, the fourth straight receiver selected in this round. That's Ken Orovitz's team as he takes Michael Crabtree as his number 2 receiver. Tyler Lauer now has 3 receivers on his squad as Allen Robinson goes off the board to him at the 409. Alshon Jeffrey to Team Kimura as their number 2 receiver behind T.Y. Hilton, Chris Holland, and Alex Blake, drafting Jeffrey there. The penultimate pick of the 4th round is Jarvis Landry, and it is the 3rd receiver drafted by Biplab Mandel. Landry goes to him, and then the last pick of the 4th round is the 4th rookie running back off the board tonight. He is Dalvin Cook, and he is on Team Spongeworthy with Frank Sladd and Jerry Koforski. So the receiver's really the talk of this round. I don't think there's any surprise seeing Rodgers and Brady in the 4th round. That seems to be where they're going here. I know you like the Tyreek Hill pick. I'll tell you a guy that I did not, I've historically never liked, and I'm starting to, probably at my own detriment, starting to drink the Kool-Aid on a little bit, Dave, and that's Sammy Watkins, especially at this mid-4th round price. Contract year, no real other viable electric targets to build the passing offense around, and Watkins seems to have kicked this foot injury. Tyrod Taylor and him have shown a chemistry already. I'm starting to like Sammy Watkins, especially when you get that talent in the mid-4th round. As your number 1 receiver, especially for Frank Imbornoni, starts off with 3 straight running backs. Get Watkins as his number 1. I'm starting to like Watkins a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's hard for me to argue with anything you just said. The injury concerns are for real. That's always the problem with Sammy Watt. He really could be a top 10. He should be a top 10 wide receiver if he's healthy, though. He really is that talented.
Kern Reeve piping in the chat room. Dave, what do you think about this? He thinks that Tyreek Hill should be the ascendant this year. Is that possible? Could we see Hill make a couple of electric plays in the preseason and bump him up?
That's possible. If he has like a 6 for 100 and a touchdown half, it's possible he might move up 2 rounds. But he would need something like that. He would need. Yeah. But it's not unlikely that he's going to make some plays in preseason.
Wayne Ellis is loving up on Frank Imbornoni's team here at the 7th spot with the 3 running backs and then Watkins, like we were just talking about, and then he gets Martavis Bryant in the 5th round, saying it could be explosive. This could be an explosive team, and maybe not in the way he intended. Could be explosive either way. This team could blow up in Frank's face, or it could carry him all the way to the $250,000. We'll have to see about that. Are you surprised at all the receivers we see go in the 4th round? I think this might dictate how the next few rounds go. With all those receivers off the board, we see 1, 2, 3, 4 teams now through 4 rounds with at least 3 receivers. They are getting they were cheap in the first 4 rounds. They're going to get pretty expensive now, Dave.
That's true. I mean, you saw that little mini run right in the middle of the 3rd round where you had a bunch of running backs go along with Jordan Reed. And that really did dictate the flow of the 4th round and all the way through the 4th and through most of the 5th year.
Right, you really have to, and these guys are experts at adjusting on the fly, being flexible, being fungible as far as what kind of lineup they want to submit from week to week. And with the FFPC, you get those 2 flex spots. Certainly there's a lot of different ways that you can play it. We'll see how these guys adjust to that massive receiver run here in the 4th round. Let's get into the 5th round analysis here. Larry Fitzgerald kicking things off as he goes to Frank Sladd and Jerry Koforski. He is their number 2 receiver. The number 4 receiver for Biplab Mandel is Julian Edelman, so he kicks things off with Le'Veon Bell in the 1st round and then 4 straight receivers. Willie Snead at the 503 to Chris Holland and Alex Blake. And then you see Tyler Lauer taking Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn falling all the way to the 504 tonight. Now, I've said this before. I thought I usually have a pretty good handle on ADP, and that has been exposed as a fallacy on the show before, especially in Pros vs. Joes. Marshawn Lynch going at the 405 in Football Guys drafts, so he does fall to the 504 tonight. Not a huge difference, but almost a full round. Pretty good value if you are a Lynch believer, or even if you're not. To Tyler Lauer there at the 504. Zach Ertz is tonight's 6th tight end selected. He goes to Ken Orovitz here at the 505. Amir Abdullah goes at the 506. Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich taking him as their number 2 running back. We talked about Martavis Bryant going to Frank Imbornoni. Number 7 tight end drafted, Kyle Rudolph, and it is the number 1 tight end for Ryan Hida at the 508. Jamison Crowder, the number 1 receiver for Bill Stavros. He only has 1 receiver through 5 rounds after loading up with a couple of running backs, a tight end, and a quarterback. Dave, we always say that one of the no-nos you don't want to do in these drafts is take a quarterback and a tight end early. We will have to follow how Bill Stavros' team is put together after this, after going with both a tight end and a quarterback here in the first 4 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not something I care to do myself. It just leaves you short at one of the premium positions, running back or receiver.
Does it make a difference if this was like a DE or a classic as far as that strategy, or do you just stay away from that no matter 28 rounds or 20 rounds?
I generally do stay away from it no matter what, and it's not a hard and fast rule. It's just that's kind of how it works out. I just don't like. I've done it before, and I just don't like the way my teams look in any format when I do it that way, when I draft that way.
I'll be honest with you, I can't really remember you saying, when we've critiqued drafts on the air before, I can't really remember you saying, "Oh, hey, this guy did this," and I like how his draft turned out. I really don't remember you ever saying that, so I think you are dead on.
I'm not. It has and can work. It's just the thing is you're going to need to get the value. Probably I would try and get the value at running back later, because it's really tough to get really stud receivers like from round 9 and beyond, for them just to emerge out of nowhere. It just doesn't happen as often.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think rarely do you see those stud receivers in the 9th, 10th, 11th round. What you do see in the 9th, 10th, 11th round is those steadier kind of unattractive receivers, maybe a little bit older on the wrong side of 30 that are in good situations. Those are the receivers you usually hit on there in those mid rounds. And maybe it works out for you, but you really got to make sure you don't miss on that tight end and quarterback that you take early. And
especially as you get further along, you get round 11. As you just keep going further and further, the wide receivers dry up even more and more and more. And then you're looking at, the 3 for 30 guys. The guys that are going to kind of almost be on the waiver wire anyway.
Yeah.
And so they really don't do anything for you. So that's why you need some of these really top guys early on.
Another guy that's climbing up draft boards here, and especially this one tonight, Jimmy Wagner takes Bilal Powell at the 5-10 tonight. It's so weird to see a guy who's been in the league as long as Powell has at the running back position to really steadily climb, over the course of his career.
Right.
His ADP seems to be going up every single year, and this is the highest I've ever seen Bilal Powell go, and he goes at the 5-10 tonight. Carlos Hyde slips all the way to the 5-11. Carlos Hyde.
That's a little late for him lately.
I was just going to say, he slipped here a little bit. This is a guy, Dave, that I don't know how many times I've broken up with him, and then I've made the random phone call at 2 in the morning saying, "Carlos, will you take me back?" And he says, "Yes, I will." And then I wake up in the next morning, and I'm like, what was I thinking? I don't like Carlos Hyde. I need to get away from him. And I think we're back together.
I'm a little uncomfortable now.
We're gonna go see. I'm gonna go.
You guys need counseling?
No, I'm gonna take him out to dinner this week and apologize for not drafting him earlier. And I think that's the way we're gonna go right now, because I think I am back on the Carlos Hyde train.
You guys are going steady again, holding hands.
And I mean, this is like vintage Balky. Balky's just reading what they're saying out of the training camp, and there's been a lot of positive news. So of course he's gonna be back with Carlos Hyde.
Well, that's true.
And it is true. But you know what? Why wouldn't I? This is the news that's coming out. So I mean, you got to be able to adjust your projections, your draft board, your targets in these drafts, and I think I have with Carlos Hyde. Good value for him at the 5-11.
And actually, I think that people should be drafting Tim Hightower, because as much as people talk about
yes.
Joe Williams, I've talked about him in the past. Tim Hightower is the bona fide definite number 2, and he's shown that he can get fantasy points, day in and day out. So yeah. I would look at him in the middle to late rounds. I don't think a lot of people are on him yet. He's probably getting drafted in the DEs. In a draft like this, maybe 18th, 19th round, you might still have to look at Hightower.
Well, and the thing you have to remember, too, who, for a big money, for a $250,000 grand prize, who is going to want to take Tim Hightower when, Joe Williams, the exciting, unproven, unknown, unrealized ceiling Joe Williams is out there. Like, why wouldn't you want to take him in, 14th, 15th round or what have you? So I think that people are still fighting. They're trying to sell jeans, as Billy Bean would say. They're still looking for that young and sexy guy, and it maybe to their own detriment, because I think that Tim Hightower warrants drafting. I think that he's getting number 1 reps with the number 1, so I think it is important to know that he knows that offense, and he definitely could be a force on that team this year. In the final pick here of the 5th round is Tyler Eifert going to Tony Pung. So he stays away from running back again here in the 5th round as he goes 0 RB, as the kids say. That is Taipei Tony's team. We will have much more right after this. You are listening to live draft coverage. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Hour 1 draws to a close here, Dave, as we are covering this live Football Guys Players Championship Draft, a $350 entry fee. These guys are competing for a $250,000 grand prize. Not just these guys, but everybody else in the 2017 Football Guys Players Championship. You can actually compete against them as well when you sign up for a team at myffpc.com. Take advantage of the 3-pack. You get a $50 discount there. A lot of fun. A lot of drafting is ahead of us here as we are in the thick of it in August, so definitely check that out. We are covering each action, or each pick, or the live draft action, pick by pick tonight. Kicking things off here in the 6th round, Tony Pung does finally get his first running back in Mike Gillislee. Danny Woodhead goes to Henry Muto here at the 602. Boy, Dave, I really, really like those last two selections by Henry Muto. Getting Hyde at the 5'11", getting a pass-catching a phenom like Danny Woodhead at the 602. He already has Joe Mixon, another guy I like, so I really like the way that this team is shaping up. Spoiler alert, I'm probably going to have nothing but positive things to say about that squad when we are covering.
And the other 11.
And the other 11, most likely. I'll probably find a team 13 that I'll have a lot of good things to say about, too. Delaney Walker at the 603 tonight, going to Jimmy Wagner as he doubles up on tight end, the first team to do so tonight. C.J. Anderson, the third running back selected by Bill Stavros, followed by Martellus Bennett, the number 2 tight end selected by Ryan Hida, so he doubles up on tight ends as well. Mark Ingram, the next pick off the board here in the 6th round. Ingram is the 4th running back selected by Frank Imbornoni, LaShawn McCoy, Jay Ajayi, Ty Montgomery, and now Mark Ingram. A heavy-duty, action-packed backfield there for Duck Creek. Emmanuel Sanders, the 4th receiver selected here at the 607 for Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Spencer Ware is the 3rd running back for Team 5, Ken Orovitz. He gets Spencer Ware to go with his Gurley and Crowell. Boy, a lot of dreadlocks on that team. I don't think I don't know if Spencer Ware has any, but Gurley and Crowell have some pretty sharp ones there. Stephon Diggs is the 4th receiver off the board for Tyler Lahr, the 2nd receiver to go in the 6th round tonight. Pierre Garçon, you talk about guys climbing the rungs of the ladder, Dave, up the ADP board. Pierre Garçon, this is a guy that was going in like the 10th, 11th round a month and a half, 2 months ago, and now here we see him in the 6th round tonight. Pierre Garçon, as far as the last 7 days of Football Guys Players Championship drafts go, he is still going at the 706. Not much of a reach here for Team Kimura to get it. But listen, Chris Holland, Alex Blake, if there's anybody who knows what they're doing in fantasy football, these guys know it. And Garçon is their 4th receiver here selected. Do you like Garçon on the Niners this year? Not a high-powered offense, but he should command a lot of targets there.
Yeah, I like the number of targets he's going to get. It's tough, though, when he had, what was he going last year in the 14th, 15th, 28th? You know, whatever. It was so late.
Very late.
To see him move up so much just based on the prospect of getting all those targets. But he's really like the only consummate good pro on the team, so he's going to have to get him.
Yeah, besides, of course, Carlos Hyde, Dave.
I'm talking about wide receiver.
Oh, receiver. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and did you see the Niners just cut Bruce Ellington this week, too? So he is now unemployed again.
Maybe, I guess, Curtin Leroy won't draft him this year.
Yeah, no comment.
They drafted him last year, and I think all their draft experts leagues. Our buddy Curtin Leroy drafted him in all their draft experts leagues after he was on IR.
Right.
I'm like, you guys should check your list before you make your pick.
Two-Packer has not let them hear the end of that for the Bruce Ellington selection. The second to last pick is Hunter Henry to Biplab Mandel here at the 6'11". Hunter Henry is the, looks like the 12th, if I'm counting correctly, and I think I am. No, he's the 11th. Of course I wouldn't count right. He's the 11th tight end off the board. Hunter Henry is the number 1 tight end drafted by Biplab Mandel. And Kelvin Benjamin, another guy I'm starting to warm up to a little bit. Kelvin Benjamin, the number 3 receiver to Frank Slad and Jerry Kaporsky here as we complete the 6th round. I'm warming up to all these guys, Dave. I'm not cooling off on anybody. This could be the greatest year of fantasy ever because I will never get sniped.
Nice.
I will literally find somebody I like every single pick because I like everyone.
Mid-Montana said that Bruce Ellington got picked up by the Jets.
Oh, Bruce Ellington now a New York Football Jet. That is interesting because there's a lot of opportunity there. We'll have to see what happens there.
Right after that, Wasp guy wants to know how we like Hunter Henry. So, Balky, I'll let you talk about Hunter Henry and your little soliloquy there.
And I will, as we pause for 10 here for station identification. Eric Balkman, Dave Gerzak, High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, hour number 2, Football Guys Players Championship live draft coverage here tonight. It has been a very entertaining first 6 rounds as we've seen a lot of tight ends fly off the board. We saw a massive receiver run here in the 4th round, running backs in the 3rd, receivers in the 4th, and you can make the case that, once again, the 5th and 6th rounds were the tight end rounds. One of those tight ends that went off the board here in the 6th round was Hunter Henry at the 6'11 pick to Biplab Mandel. Question from the chat room, as you alluded to before the break. Wasp Guy wants to know if we like Hunter Henry this year. And boy, do I. Hunter Henry is a guy who was not given the proper amount of red zone and inside the 20 looks last year.
8 touchdowns, right?
Because, hold on, I'm going to get to that.
All right, sorry.
And he did have a bunch of touchdowns. But here's the thing. Remember, the Chargers were trying to get Antonio Gates that tight end touchdown record last year. And it took all season just for him to tie it, which is really frustrating for Hunter Henry because a lot of those targets could have been going to him. Now, you look at how tight end red zone targets stacked up last year. Forgive me, I can't remember who number 1 was. It was probably somebody awesome. Number 2, Antonio Gates. Number 3, Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry had 16 red zone targets last year. Antonio Gates had 18. There ain't no way in heck Antonio Gates is getting 18 red zone targets this year. So now, by and large, I know there's a lot of other things at play, but you would like to think that some of those targets that were meant for Gates last year are going to go Hunter Henry's way. We've seen the largest leap an NFL player makes, especially at tight end, is rookie year to sophomore year. And I feel like Hunter Henry is going to make that leap this year. The fact that he goes at the 6'11 tonight in a tight end premium league, I love that. He normally goes at the 7'10 in Football Guys Players Championship drafts. I love that as well. You could spend a lot, there's a lot of different other worse ways that you can spend a 6th or 7th round pick than Hunter Henry, and that's why I like him. I'm fine with him as my number 1 tight end this year.
Well,
not number 1 overall, but
right.
As a top 12 guy.
I got you. So you're going to wait a little bit. I think there's a bit of risk there still. You just don't know for sure that he's going to break out. He's a second-year player. I'm tempering my expectations a little bit. Gates is still there. I mean, I know Gates, for all we know, Gates could get 1 pass for 1 yard, get the touchdown record, because it's tied right now, isn't it?
Yes, that is correct.
So and then just walk up the field and retire. I mean, he could do that. I don't think he will. I think he'll still play and still be semi-effective, actually. So you still have to contend with a Hall of Famer like Gates. So I'm probably a little bit lower on Henry than you are.
The other great thing, too, is if you do the Dave Gerzak crappy tight end strategy, you can actually, if you draft Hunter Henry in the 7th or the 6th in this case, you can actually get a pretty decent backup coming up in the 8th or 9th. And if you want to get another one after that, you'd actually get a pretty good one, a good number 3 tight end in like the 12th, 13th round. So there is, and in a tight end premium league, I would be taking 3 tight ends anyway. Unless it's a DE, then I'm probably taking more than that.
If Henry was a little bit of a value, I would consider him. I wouldn't move him ahead of kind of where he's been going. That's kind of my point.
If I
can get him at a little bit of a bargain,
right.
I would take him.
Okay. Just curious. Let's talk about tight ends you hate this year. Hunter Henry versus Martellus Bennett. Who would you rather have?
Henry, I'd rather have.
Really?
Yeah. Because again, I've said this before. I don't believe that
Bennett
will get enough targets because the Packers don't throw their tight ends often enough. If they start doing that for the first time this year, using the same offense that they've been running for the past 15 years, well, God bless them. I'm wrong.
Dave Gerzak, he tells it like it is, ladies and gentlemen. No, you're right. I get where you're coming from.
It's not like they signed Gronk off the waiver wire. It's Martellus Bennett. He's a fine player.
He is a fine player. This is a fine show, and we're going to take a fine break. Coming back right after this, High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. The HSFF Hour. Hello to all you spies and trolls out there in radio land. Of course, you are either listening to us on blogtalkradio.com/HSFF or on iTunes, Stitcher, all the other great outlets for podcasting out there that Dave doesn't like me talking about, and terrestrial radio around the North America, as well as the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Thanks so much for tuning in. Live draft coverage here tonight of a Football Guys Players Championship draft. These guys are all competing for a $250,000 grand prize in this tournament this year. What do we have what's the cap on this year's Football Guys Players Championship, Dave? as far as number of teams go.
As they say in Wisconsin, 7,200.
7,200 is the cap tonight, and or the cap this year. So the things are filling up fast. If you want to participate and jump in with one of these drafts,
There's spots open tonight, Paul.
We'd love to have you. There are spots open tonight. And honestly, no matter when you're listening to this, unless it's after the NFL season starts, there's probably spots open.
That's right.
So check that out at myffpc.com.
We even have 2 drafts going on tonight. We have an 11 o'clock Eastern and a midnight.
And I'll tell you what, if you are interested in having me as your commissioner, sign up for the midnight because I will be commissioning that draft later on tonight.
You work a lot, don't you? Nonstop.
Yeah, it's August is taxing, man. 7th round, let's go. 701, Brandon Marshall, the 4th receiver taken by Jerry Kaforski and Frank Sladd, Spongeworthy team there. Paul Perkins, the number 2 running back drafted by Biplab Mandel here at the 702. Starting to like Paul Perkins a little bit more too, Dave. Actually, you know who I really like on that team? Well, we'll get to him later. But there's a flyer in that, 2 flyers in that backfield that I really like that we'll get to later if they get selected here. That Giants backfield, I think, is a little bit underrated. Eric Ebron at the 703 tonight to Chris Holland and Alex Blake as their number 2 tight end. The number 1 quarterback for Tyler Lauer is Drew Brees, and he nabs him at the 704. Team 5 is Ken Orovitz, and he has 4 running backs on his roster after 7 rounds, thanks to his 7th round selection of Tevin Coleman, the Atlanta Falcons running back. Jack Doyle is the number 1 tight end for Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich to go with their stable of running backs and receivers. Kobe Fleener, the next tight end off the board, to Frank Imbornoni as his number 1 tight end. LeGarrette Blount is the 3rd running back drafted by Ryan Hida tonight at the 708 is where he goes. And then we get a trio of receivers. Jeremy Macklin goes to Bill Stavros. Cameron Meredith to Jimmy Wagner as his number 3 receiver. And then Dante Moncrief. Henry Muto takes Moncrief at the 7-11. And then Eddie Lacy goes tonight at the final pick of the 7th round. Eddie Lacy is the number 2 running back for Tony Pung. So he starts off with 5 straight non-running backs, and now he goes back-to-back running backs here tonight, Dave. Gillislee and Lacy as your number 1 and number 2 running backs. Maybe not the most ideal situation, but certainly if you get Gillislee and Lacy, you know you're going to be loaded with the picks you had before that, and I think that's exactly what Tony Pung is here.
Yeah, actually, I like that Eifert pick, too, at the 512. I think that's nice. Eifert's supposedly not hurt this year, so.
I like him as well, no surprise. I'm starting to like Tyler Eifert as well.
Eifert has like elite upside. Not that Hunter Henry doesn't, but Eifert, you've seen flashes where he could really just go crazy.
I think this is a philosophical thing here. The reason I'm starting to like everybody, and I'll compare this to the NFL draft. In the NFL draft, before these prospects come out, the year before, everybody loves them. Oh my gosh, have you seen what this guy can do? Have you seen this guy's film? Look at what this guy is doing on the field. It's insane. And then you get that extra year, that last year before they declare for the NFL draft, and that's when all the haters come out. Well, he's doing this wrong. Because you're giving him more of a body of work. And I feel like that's how I am in preseason right now. I haven't seen these guys on the field, really. I'm not watching training camp videos. I saw part of the preseason.
NFL Network all day long?
No, I'm not. And I saw the part of the preseason game last night. Which, by the way, that preseason game, that Cowboys-Cardinals game, I didn't know where they were going to go. I thought they were going to cancel it at the game at the half because the Cowboys and Cardinals were like starting their number 3 team. I
didn't watch a second of it.
Where do you go from there? If you're starting your 3rd stringers, you can't just drop down.
It's such a mockery of just even of preseason.
Yeah,
which is hilarious. How do you make a mockery of preseason? Yeah,
Brian Holgen actually posted on Facebook today that the overnight rating for this game, the Cowboys-Cardinals game, was a 5.4. And Game 6, the Stanley Cup Finals, the clinching game where the Penguins won back-to-back titles, got an overnight rating of 4.5. So the worst game in the NFL, literally, I think you would agree with me, this is the worst game in the NFL. It's the worst preseason game.
Yes.
Preseason is worse than the postseason and the regular season. So it is the worst game in the NFL is getting a higher rating than the best game in the NHL. Pretty crazy stuff.
As it should.
Well, it's debatable. Okay.
Hockey's actually a pretty cool sport. Unfortunately, there's no pro franchise really close by, and I'm not going to adopt the Blackhawks just to be a knob.
Oh, you'd have to adopt the Chicago team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Blackhawks, Red Wings, Wild, whatever they got in Minnesota, I don't know. Or you could adopt a Canadian team.
Or we could adopt the Preds.
Why do you...
In Nashville, they call them the Preds.
Yeah.
It's really annoying because when I was in Nashville, they would always talk about the Preds. I'm like, can't you just say Predators? It's not that many syllables more than Preds.
Yeah, I got you.
I hate the team now.
So anyway, to get back to it here, my original point was, as I get more film on these guys, as I see them on the field, as I'm getting more reports, firsthand reports from these beat writers, I think that I'll put on my glasses, I'm going to start to see little warts, and then I'll know who I want to target, who I want to stay away from. The guys who don't show the warts, those are the guys I'm targeting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm starting to, players I'm kind of getting down further and further on as I think more about where they're being drafted.
Yeah. Let's get into the 8th round here. Derrick Henry is the third running back selected by Tony Pung here at the 801. Devontae Parker, the number 3 receiver for Henry Mudo's Griffins at the 802. Doug Martin going at the 803 tonight to Jimmy Wagner. A bit of a drop for him, I think. I'm going to check his ADP over the last 7 days here in the Football Guys Players Championship. He's normally going at the 705, so you're talking about a half-round difference right around there for Doug Martin for Triple J. Tyrell Williams, a guy who is climbing up boards. Tyrell Williams, probably a guy that you've been on from the get-go, never being a believer in Mike Williams. Dave?
That's true. If I've been drafting, I've won a lot of Tyrell Williams. Right?
Tyrell Williams is the selection here by Bill Stavros at the 804. Matt Ryan is the 4th quarterback selected off the board here. He goes to team 8. That's Ryan Hida. A couple of running backs after that and pass catchers at that. Theo Riddick to Frank Imbornoni. Duke Johnson to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Duke Johnson, the number 3 running back for those guys. Theo Riddick, the number 5 running back selected by Frank Imbornoni, who is loading up on running backs. Adam Thielen is going to Team 5. That is Ken Orovitz's Heroes and Villains team. Adam Thielen is his number 3 receiver. And then it's all running backs to end the 8th round. Frank Gore to Tyler Lahr. Adrian Peterson as the number 2 running back to Chris Holland and Alex Blake. Kareem Hunt, the number 3 running back selected by Bitblab Mandel. And Terrence West rounds it all up here in the 8th round as he is the 3rd running back selected by Frank Slad and Jerry Kaforsky. So out of those 4 running backs, Dave, I don't know if there's some interesting ones there. We have a guy that has underwhelmed as a pro. We have a guy who is a rookie this year, and then 2 guys who are really legends at their position. Out of those 4 running backs there, do you have a favorite? Is there a guy that you like best between Gore, Peterson, Hunt, and West as we close out the 8th round? I don't even know if you have a favorite. You haven't been really bombastically defending any of these guys this year. I know you don't like Peterson, but of those 4, is there one that sticks out to you?
Probably Gore, actually, as much as, Peterson you have to contend with Mark Ingram. But there's been positive training camp reports, and good drafters are taking Peterson. I'm going to have to keep looking at him. As of right now, I still don't like him. Gore is just consistent. He's still a starter. There's nobody that's any good behind him. They have a good offense. He's going to get goal line. So I like Frank Gore the best there. Yeah. Kareem Hunt, he's not the starter. Terrence West is the starter, but I don't think he's a good enough player. He's still not bad, though. I mean, he could end up being productive, but he's going to be sharing time with Woodhead.
Yeah, he will. And there's also the possibility that Baltimore brings somebody else in, too. I mean, we don't know how this whole situation is going to end up. So if you're taking Terrence West in a single-digit round right now, be aware that Baltimore might be bringing somebody in, and it might not be until, some of these players are cut when cuts start happening within the next couple of weeks, so they can bring somebody in then. It all remains to be seen. What doesn't remain to be seen is the end of the 9th round here. I'm going to tell you each pick here as we go through it. Russell Wilson to Spongeworthy at the 901, followed by Robert Kelly, the number 4 running back for Bitblab Mandel. Eric Decker is off the board as the 5th receiver selected by Chris Holland and Alex Blake. Jason Witten is the number 1 tight end for Tyler Lahr, so he gets his number 1 tight end at the 904. Deshaun Jackson, the 4th receiver selected, by Ken Orovitz here at the 905. John Brown at the 906 to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Kenny Britt, to Frank Imbornoni's Duck Creek, followed by Marvin Jones. So 4 straight receivers there. Marvin Jones ends it to Ryan Hida, as that is his 3rd receiver. Julius Thomas is the 2nd tight end drafted by Bill Stavros to pair with Travis Kelce there. And then C.J. Prosise, the number 4 running back selected by Jimmy Wagner. He gets Gordon, Powell, Martin, and Prosise through 9 rounds. Randall Cobb is the 4th receiver to Henry Mudo's Griffins. Des Bryant, Dante Moncrief, Devontae Parker, and now Randall Cobb. And another team doubling up on tight ends here as we have Austin Hooper going at the 9-12 to Tony Pung's team 747 team.
Your boy.
What's interesting, I was going to bring this up when we were talking about Hunter Henry before. I said there would be another upside guy that you could probably get in the 8th or 9th round that I wouldn't mind pairing with Hunter Henry, and that's Austin Hooper. I really like him to break out this year, too.
Yeah, I know. You're saying that a few times in the past
Yep.
broadcast. I think you're going to have a lot of teams in Kentucky ball. They're going to have the Henry Hooper connection. Of course, in Kentucky, it's not .5 PPR, so we're going to have to make sure we're dropping all those guys down, so we're not taking them in the 6th and the 9th round.
You know what I feel like what I've done last year?
Tight end is so cheap in that format.
Yeah, it really is. You know what I feel like I've done last year that to my own detriment is taking a tight end too early in that format.
Yeah, that's because we're too much into FFPC.
I think that's what it is. I want to get that number one elite guy so bad that I end up costing myself usually a running back because I'll pile on 15 receivers with no issues. But it usually costs me a running back, and that's the issue.
Well, but then also, even if you're taking receivers, you'll take the tight end, and then no other tight ends will go for like 3 rounds, and you'll see like 14 receivers go since after you pick that tight end, you're like, wow, I went from like receiver 15 to like 30 here.
So frustrating. Hopefully you're not frustrating listening to the show tonight. We've been having a blast covering it for you. We're going to continue to do it right after this break. High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour rolls on right after this on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. The Footballguys Players Championship is live at myffpc.com. We are covering one of them for you tonight where these competitors will have drafted a team that they paid $350 for, and they're hoping to turn that into $250,000 for the grand prize this year. If you want to join in, myffpc.com is where you can sign up for that. I am Eric Balkman. He is Dave Gerzak. This is the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, and we have been covering the live pick-by-pick action tonight. Heavy hitters in this draft. A lot of former show guests that we've had on: Chris Holland, Alex Blake, Jimmy Wagner, Henry Muto, Biplab Mandel, Tony Pung, all have been on the show before. Their accomplishments definitely precede them. And the guys they're going up against, not too shabby as well. These guys are all very talented drafters. They're showing it tonight, shifting their strategy with an abundance of receivers going off in the 4th round, a ton of running backs going off on the 3rd, a slew of tight ends from rounds 5 to 7. I feel like that's what we've been seeing most of the season this year, Dave, is rounds 5 through 7 seems to be the sweet spot for teams trying to get their number one tight end or trying to be that team that doubles up with tight end right away there. So that is what has happened, transpired so far tonight. I think we have the majority of teams in the league, I think, still have one tight end. We've only seen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams. Okay, so 5 teams have doubled up with tight ends through 9 rounds. This is a 20-round draft. We'll have to see how these guys are filling in the blanks as we move forward and press on here. One of the things I wanted to bring up, I know we're going to get into team analysis a little bit later on in the show, but Tony Pung's team 12 tonight, Dave.
Yep.
Interesting strategy here is he goes 0 RB. Kicks things off 4 straight receivers, and then has not touched the position since. We talked about sometimes that being a mistake when you pound one receiver to make it a strength, and then you kind of ignore the position to try to acquire, backs, or backs, tight ends, quarterbacks, whatever. What do you think? Should Tony? Would you have gone with a receiver anywhere from rounds 5 through 10 because he did not in any of them?
I maybe would have in round 10 actually. The Corey Coleman. Let's see. Yeah, Corey Coleman went after he selected. And actually, that's probably who I would have taken there. Because, like you said, the strength goes from a strength into a weakness. Right now, he has a weakness at bye week. So there's 4 weeks where he's going to have a weakness at the 4th receiver position, which is a starter spot for him. So I think that's where you take a guy, whether it's Corey Coleman or whomever. He's got some time, though. I mean, there's still going to be some decent receivers in the 11th, 12th, 13th rounds. So he'll be all right, probably.
I feel like that Honeywell of receivers that existed in rounds 9 through 11 3-4 weeks ago, it's now moved up to kind of round 7 through 10. I think that's where it is now.
By the way, speaking of P. Ryan here, Robert Kelly, I noticed, actually is going the right spot. Remember we were talking about during Pros versus Joes that we thought Kelly, at least I was saying, I think you were kind of agreeing with me, that Kelly should probably be going ahead of P. Ryan. Why is he not? And now, of course, the so-called pros are no longer drafting, but the real pros are drafting, and they get it right here with taking Kelly in the ninth.
Why don't you ever call out these pros on the show?
Oh, okay, I don't have the guts to do that.
Welcome to my world.
It's better to talk smack about them now, because then they won't be back for another 350 days. I don't remember this.
Yeah, I'll tell him, Balky, you really ripped on my team. You know what? It's just for radio. I didn't mean that. I obviously didn't. We had
to pick on somebody's team.
Yeah, and we knew you'd be cool with it.
Your team was obviously one of the best.
Clearly, and so it was just kind of everybody knew that, so we were just poking fun at it because everybody would understand that's a joke because his team is obviously by far and away the best one. So letting behind the curtain here tonight on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Samaji P. Ryan, as you pointed out, to Tony Pung here at the 10:01, followed by Corey Coleman as the number 5 receiver for Henry Muto. Thomas Rawls right after that. Rawls is the number 5 running back to Triple J, Jimmy Wagner, who we heard from in the first hour of the show tonight. James White right after that to the Drunken Puppets as their number 4 running back. Matt Forte right after that at the 10:05 pick tonight. The 10:05 selection is James White is the 10:04. Matt Forte is the 10:05 to the Bad Dogs franchise. That is Ryan Hida. The shoulder, Dave, is off the board here tonight as Andrew Luck goes here in the 10th round. Luck as the 6th quarterback off the board.
That's getting late. Getting late, even with the shoulder.
Okay, so that was my question to you because you've said I'm staying away from Luck. I'm not drafting Luck.
I am staying away from him.
But would you still stay away from him mid-10th?
I'd probably this is where I'd start taking a look at him.
Okay, all right. So once it hits double digits.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap. This is where you start seeing Andy Dalton going, for God's sakes, So why not at that point take a shot? I haven't seen. All I know is that they don't really know is that kind of what the thing is. Is he throwing a tennis ball around? I can just see him sitting at his apartment or his house or whatever.
Oh yeah, sitting on the floor throwing the tennis ball against his kitchen counter.
With his dorky athletic socks on, throwing the ball. I think that's what he's doing.
With his flip phone next to him.
His dog by his side.
Watching the Facts of Life on his on TV Land.
MASH.
Yeah, something like that. Andrew Luck's a nerd. Let's move on and talk about Giovanni Bernard because he goes right after Luck here at the 10:07 selection. And then Jameis Winston off the board now to Heroes and Villains. That's Ken Orovitz, and he takes Winston as his number 1 quarterback. I think that's the point that I wanted to make there, which you kind of made for me. The 9th, 10th, 11th round is typically where the people who are waiting on quarterback finally bite the bullet and take a quarterback. What's the difference if you're taking Luck there? Because if you're drafting your number 1 quarterback there, you're going to be drafting another one shortly thereafter anyway.
Yeah, you can take Eli in the 13th.
Yeah, take the upside with Luck. It makes perfect sense. And I think in a perfect world, that's how I'd want my drafts going. Although then the temptation is I'm going to get him everywhere. And then your team could really stink by missing out on Luck if there is something serious there. If there's nothing serious there, which I think there's probably a better than 50% chance we will see Luck ready for week 1. And we're not even talking about this in September.
It doesn't even matter. If he's back in week 3 or 4, it's fine.
Yeah.
For that spot. Tony Pung or Jimmy Wagner could have either one have a quarterback, so they took P. Ryan and Rawls over Luck. So that's a decision that they made, and that's fine. But it may, they may look back on it like, oh, that was a great decision, or may look back and be like, wow, I really could have had these 35 points a week from weeks 4 on or 5 on, or like you said, maybe it is even week 1.
I always love to see these games of quarterback chicken that is played in the Football Guys Players Championship to see what happens.
Yep,
yeah. Exactly. And then obviously when there's one player left, everybody's rooting for him to don't take one. And then round 14, Joe Flacco. Oh, come on, man.
That was really great in the big payback in Kentucky when that one guy waited, I think, till the 17th round to take a quarterback.
Oh, that was Brad Taylor. I think
that was so funny.
I think
he took Alex Smith or something.
Yeah, it was somebody obviously not good that went there. So, yes, always entertaining. Jordan Matthews, the selection after that to Tyler Lahr, that is Tyler's number 5 receiver, is Jordan Matthews. And Jacquizz Rodgers, potentially the starting running back for Tampa for the first 4 weeks of the season. He goes in the 10th round here to Chris Holland, Alex Blake as their number 3 running back. Corey Davis to Biplab Mandel here as his number 5 receiver. And Jamal Williams, officially your boy or not here at the end of the 10th?
I think so. Sure, why not?
You like the value there?
I do like the value
of a guy who says he wants to start. The Packers have been praising him. and getting some time with the ones.
Getting some time with the ones, and 2 picks later is Joe Williams, a player, and that's not necessarily a bad pick, but that's the guy that is running with the threes right now. So I think there's a nice value with Jamal Williams there, yeah.
Very nice value. And I know Matt Kelly from Player Profiler right now is his head's exploding.
Because he likes Aaron Jones.
He does like Aaron Jones, but that's not the reason. He just dislikes Jamal Williams. Just does not like his athletic ability. He doesn't.
Not great.
He doesn't. He feels like, and PlayerProfiler.com again has all those great metrics and analytics.
Yeah, his metrics are terrible. Player profilers are great.
Yeah.
Williams' metrics are terrible.
Matt Kelly's metrics might be bad too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. This is 40 times.
Yeah.
But Jamal Williams, we're not drafting him for dynasty. We're just looking at him for 1 year only.
Exactly. A great point there. And if Williams is the guy, or at least carves out a role and maybe getting 40% of the touches, 50% of the touches there in that offense, that's significant. And you're paying a double-digit round price for him. So certainly a name to pay attention to. Not an ascendant name, but a guy that is going to be sought after. Would you be looking, I suppose you wouldn't even take Ty Montgomery, but if you did, would you be seeking out to draft Jamal Williams there in the 10th, 11th round area if you did have Montgomery already on your roster?
Yeah, so let's just say it was, if I got really good value on Montgomery for some reason, I would then reach for Williams for sure.
And it's a little bit different tonight because Frank Imbornoni was the player tonight who selected Ty Montgomery, but he selected him as his number 3 running back. I mean, he already has McCoy and Ajayi in front of him, and I think, there's a lot of there's a lot of people out there that will tell you don't handcuff at all. If it works out, fine, but don't target a handcuff later on. Just target good handcuffs, even if they're not your own.
See, I think a blanket statement about not handcuffing is kind of a mistake. I think you look at each individual situation, and some make sense. To me, Montgomery and Williams with uncertainty, it makes a lot of sense. It seems like it's uncertainty. Now, what may happen week 1? Montgomery comes out, he starts, and we never see Williams again. And if that's the case, hopefully you own both of them.
Yeah, indeed. And maybe the advice isn't don't handcuff. It's just don't overcompensate and rearrange your draft to make sure you handcuff. So I think that's what we would pay attention to there. We have much more show to get to here tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as we have live draft coverage of the Football Guys Players Championship. We are through 10 rounds of this 20-round draft. We're going to bring as much tonight to you as we can as we are closing in shortly on the end of our show. You are listening to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network, and I am, of course, Eric Balkman. You can follow me on Twitter at Eric Balkman. The Dizzle, my co-host, Dave Gerzak, follow him on Twitter at David Gerzak. The show at HSFF Hour. Live draft coverage tonight. We brought you how many pros? 6 pros versus Joes. That wasn't enough for you. You said, we want more, Balky, so we're bringing you more tonight. The Football Guys Players Championship. All pros, no Joes in this. This is, or you could make the case that it's all Joes and no pros, depending upon how you look at it. The grand prize in this contest is $250,000. Each one of these teams paid $350 to get into this contest, and they are competing for that tonight along with a slew of other leagues as well. We told you what happened in the first 10 rounds. Let's tell you what's going on in the 11th round here as we move forward to see Quincy Enunwa go at the 11:01 to Frank Sladd and Jerry Kaforski here, followed by Joe Williams, as Dave mentioned before the break. Williams going to Biplab Mandel as his number 5 running back. Darren Sproles to Chris Holland and Alex Blake here. Darren Sproles goes to them at the 11:03. First of 3 tight ends in the 11th round, Cameron Brate to Tyler Lahr as his backup tight end behind Jason Witten. And then Rashard Matthews is the number 5 receiver to Ken Orovitz here. Back-to-back tight ends, Antonio Gates to Good to Be the King. That's Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. And then O.J. Howard is the backup tight end to Kobe Fleener on Frank Imbornoni's squad. Ted Ginn off the board at the 11:08 tonight. Ted Ginn to the Bad Dogs 101 franchise. Ryan Hida managing that one. Robert Woods after that. Robert Woods climbing up boards here a little bit. Robert Woods goes at the 11:09, followed by Kirk Cousins, a guy I really like at quarterback this year, to Jimmy Wagner as his number 1 QB. Nice job there. Mike Wallace, the 5th straight receiver drafted by the Griffins, Henry Muto, and then Cam Newton the seventh straight non-receiver drafted by Tony Pung there. So he gets his man Cam in the 11th round. I like Cam Newton too, Dave, and it seems like the more I like him, the more he falls in drafts.
He's great value at this point. Wow.
I'm not too worried about him cutting down on the running. I'm not too worried about him being, less of a fantasy factor with Samuel and McCaffrey being added, especially in the 11th round here. Just makes so much sense to draft him.
It makes a lot of sense. It's like, even when there's a bunch of changes going on, and you're not really sure, no one really knows what he's going to do. He may have a great season, he may not. But he's done it before. So many top 10 performances. Why not? It's like it's almost free to just take a shot. There's a lot of upside there.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of upside there. Tony Pung finally going back to receiver here in the 12th round as we move forward. And that is his number 5 receiver tonight. As we look at, and I want to get into to team construction here and team analysis. I'll tell you what. Why don't we? You want to start that right now? Can we start team analysis right now, and we'll go through that.
How long do we have in the wonderful show, Balky?
Oh, well, no. You're right.
I don't know how long.
No, you're right. Great point. Let's not do it yet. Let's keep doing this pick by pick coverage because I think this is more important.
I wasn't trying to make a point. I was actually I was actually asking a serious question.
I know, and you made me realize that we do have some more time left, so I'm not going to worry about that. Great point.
There's no point.
The point that you weren't trying to make.
Thank you.
Can we talk about Robert Woods here in the 11th, because this is a guy.
We?
Well,
you love talking about Robert Woods.
I feel like
your boy.
He's such a good value this year, given that he is going to be the number 1 receiver in an offense that should be playing from behind.
Oh.
And he's normally going at the 14:02 in Footballguys drafts. Robert Woods tonight sneaks up to the 11th, but as we like to say on this show, after round 10, just go and get everybody. Now, I go and get my guys in all 20 rounds. But you look at Robert Woods in the 11th round, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially given.
So you must be high on Jared Goff then, of course.
I don't have to be that high on him as an 11th round pick, though. You know what I mean?
You don't have to be. You're right.
And honestly, probably will not be drafting Jared Goff anywhere this year, except for maybe like a DE if I screw up quarterbacks or something like that. Cut to everybody who drafted Jared Goff in DE. Bulky doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So Robert Woods, the number 4 receiver, and the reason I bring it up, I really like that pick in the 11th round. This is the Drunken Puppets team, Bill Stavros' team, that started off with Travis Kelce in the 2nd and Tom Brady in the 4th, a tight end and a quarterback early. How do you fill in those other spots? You get guys like Robert Woods in the 11th. I like that pick. I know Dave does not. I'm trying to think.
It's a fine pick in the 11th round.
Sure.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's not somebody I want to have to start, though.
Well, I wouldn't want to have to start him. Anybody really after round 10, I don't want to have to start those guys, but I know I'm going to have to start him at some point.
But he's going to have to start him at some point. He's his 4th wide receiver.
More than likely, he will for bye weeks and what have you. Okay, let's move on here into the 12th round. Josh Doxson, I said.
I just don't trust Goff. There we go. That's my final point.
I understand that.
Totally don't trust.
Do you trust McVay? Do you like McVay for that offense? We all know.
Sure. Goff was so terrible last year in the preseason. So terrible. Can be unbelievable.
How many so's was that?
He was a Leaf-esque. He was so bad.
Hey, speaking of Leaf-esque, I don't know. I just thought of this now. YouTube Red in 2018 is going to have a half-hour comedy.
That's a paid version of YouTube, right?
Half-hour comedy show, 10 episodes long, called Cobra Kai, starring Ralph Macchio and William Zabka.
Really?
Playing their roles that they did in Karate Kid.
That's great.
Starts off next year. And it's a comedy.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah.
That'll be that's
and I think they're going to get William Zabka involved a little bit more than they did in Karate Kid. We kind of just saw Ralph Macchio's story in that. But
right. Ralph Macchio playing the villain.
Yes. Hilarious.
Listeners, you guys know that.
I've seen the YouTube video.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube video out there where you know that Ralph Macchio in Karate Kid, he's actually the villain. He's the one that goes in and disrupts this totally normal high school where everybody was getting along.
Yeah.
Just fine.
Yeah.
And this new kid from out from Jersey or wherever he's from ruins everybody's high school experience. What a jerk. There's
actually another little known fact about that movie, that Elizabeth Shue, who played the love interest,
Yes.
actually Kaiser Soze. Shocked me as well. Yes. Wow. Really bizarre, the crossover there between the two. But
I didn't even see her in that movie.
If you look back, that's how it ended up. Alvin Kamara, the 12:02 tonight after Josh Doctson. Alvin Kamara, the number 4 running back selected by Henry Muto. Tavon Austin, who I know Dave is not super high on given his quarterback situation. Tavon Austin.
Not to mention Tavon's
12:03. So Austin, you will just dump all over.
He sucks. He's so terrible.
All right. So Jimmy Wagner, not one of Dave's favorite picks there.
No, I don't like Austin. Sorry, Jimmy.
That's fine. I mean, Jimmy Wagner has also had a chance to draft him 11 other times, chose not to, and this is his number 4 receiver, so I don't think he's going to be too hurt.
Good.
Charles Clay, the number 3 tight end drafted by Bill Stavros. That is the first tight end, ladies and gentlemen, first team, ladies and gentlemen, for 3 tight ends tonight, as he is 3 tight ends through round 12. Jonathan Stewart to the Bad Dogs, 101 at the 12:05 tonight, followed by Kevin White, the Chicago Bear. Kevin White going off the board at the 12:06. White to Frank Imbornone's Duck Creek. A lot of quarterbacks here in the back end of the 12th round. You are looking at Matthew Stafford to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. And then you are looking at Derek Carr right after that to Ken Orovitz. Latavius Murray right in the middle of this little quarterback run we have going. Tyler Lahr takes Latavius Murray here at the 12:09. Marcus Mariota at the number 1 quarterback drafted by Chris Holland and Alex Blake. Dave, you can do a lot worse than waiting on your quarterback until round 12 to get a guy like Marcus Mariota, who got his weapons improved this year with Corey Davis and another year of Derrick Henry, bringing Eric Decker into the fold. Delaney Walker still, producing in that passing attack too. So Marcus Mariota to Chris Holland and Alex Blake there. I really like that selection when you get him as your number 1 quarterback, and you don't have to pay anything more than a 12th round pick to do it.
That's a great deal for Marcus. Corey Davis, he's only going to miss a week according to the news that came out on NFL.com 3 hours ago. So there was a concern, injures hamstring to have MRI. It's like gulp. That's what it's when you have him in Dynasty. Yeah. You're not happy. But it looks like it's not that big of an injury, so it shouldn't hurt Marcus Mariota at all.
Rashard Matthews, too, has proven himself more than capable, even if Davis were to miss time. So you got to even if he were to miss, Rashard Matthews makes some sense as a fill-in guy there. Another team that waited until round 12 to draft his first quarterback, and the final team without a quarterback tonight is quarterback-less no longer, as Biplab Mandel makes Phillip Rivers his QB1 at the 12-11 pick, and then rounding things out in the 12th round here, Dave. Chris Thompson, a guy that I'm starting to like more and more, as the number 5 running back drafted by Frank Sladd and Jerry Koforski. How do you attack running backs, let's say post-round 8, post-round 9, where these guys really, the best you can hope for is them having some sort of role in a committee. Maybe they're a high upside handcuff. How are you attacking the running back position? What are you looking for when we get into the middle rounds and the latter rounds of drafts?
Well, generally, I'll just try and find players that are going to have some sort of defined role. And if that's not the case, if they're just pure backups, then I'm looking for players that have some level of talent and not just players that you're not sure are going to not players that you don't think would do anything even if they got the job, or if the starter got hurt, that they're not even assured of getting all the carries. So I don't want those players at all. Usually, though, in those rounds, I'm not really drafting running backs as often. A lot of times for me, rounds like 9 through 12, I'm picking up tight ends, quarterbacks, and receivers for some reason. It just seems like a lot of people draft running backs there. I'll usually have 3 of them, and then I'll just kind of ignore it to like later rounds, like 13 and beyond. Not always, but just seems to work out that way for me a lot.
Interesting. Okay. So, okay. I'm just curious to find out, like,
kind of like how heroes and villains.
Okay.
I'm not saying I would draft all those same players, but he's gone, receiver, quarterback, receiver, quarterback, tight end. And he already has four running backs. So it makes what he did there makes a lot of sense. So even if I had taken a receiver in the 7th round and I had, let's say, Gurley, Crowell, and Ware, and those were guys I loved and was happy with, I wouldn't feel this big need to go with a running back. FFPC format, because you can start 4 of them, it's fine. But again, as I was saying in one of those previous broadcasts, running backs fall off so much. I'm not really interested in trying to find RB45 to score 113 points.
Good point, and I certainly appreciate the insight from the Dizzle there. We have much more. We're going to take a quick break. High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour rolls on right after this. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is right here on your Fantasy Sports Radio Network. I am Eric Balkman. He is David Gerzak. We are covering the Football Guys Players Championship, the live on HSFF Hour draft. We do this every year. This is the last draft we will be covering live for you this year as we are getting into crunch time here. And if you want to jump into the Football Guys Players Championship, if you want to jump into a Dynasty startup, a best ball, any of the other satellites we have going on, you can definitely do that at myffpc.com. Note that if you want to play in the main event, the clock is on, the counter, Dave, is on the website. We have the counter of how many main event teams we have left. It's a little bit earlier this year, but the teams have been selling out faster this year, and we have just over 400, I believe, left for a contest that is capped at, remind me again?
7,200?
No, main event.
1440.
1440. We have just over 400 of those spots left.
I was reading a message here.
That's all right. I certainly appreciate your multitasking. This is how the show is great, people. We're
pay attention to you and then answer questions.
No, I mean, the thing is, we have a producer that basically just hangs out and doesn't really do much. And Dave and I are doing a lot more than we probably should, and that is all kudos to Rob. I know Bryce is doing some double duty commissioning drafts tonight.
1440, yes. We have what do we have, around 420 teams left?
Something like that. So get in while you can at myffpc.com. And hey, you want to do it live? We'll do it live out in Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas. You get a great room discount out there as well for that week. Let's get through one more round here. And then we're going to have to cut it off on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network feed, and we'll keep broadcasting here on blogtalkradio.com/HSF. 13th round here. Jared Cook and Evan Ingram kick things off. Jared Cook at the 13:01, Evan Ingram at the 13:02, followed by Darren McFadden and Marlon Mack to Tyler Lard. Do you like Marlon Mack this year, Dave? If you are drafting Gore, if you get him, A, are you picking a handcuff for him at all? And then B, who do you like between the rookie Marlon Mack, who I believe went to Central Florida, South Florida, somewhere in Florida, and then you have Robert Turbin, who, look, I think we've seen what he can do, but he is being talked up at the Colts coaching staff this year.
I would not take Turbin. I would take Mack as the backup to Gore. And I would. He's another player that, because Gore is old, I would look at Mack. And also, when you're not sure what's going on, just punch in Google, and here you go. Once again, Marlon Mack turning heads as a rookie.
Yep.
Marlon Mack draws praise from coach, flashing regularly. And so it's fine. To take him, and I just don't. If Gore is hurt, what's Turbin going to do? Nothing.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Let's move on and talk to you about C.J. Fedorowicz, because he was the pick at 13:05 to Ken Orovitz, followed by Charles Sims is the pick to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Ben Roethlisberger, Dak Prescott, a couple of quarterbacks, the only quarterbacks off the board here in the 13th round. Roethlisberger to Frank Imbornoni. Prescott to the Bad Dogs, that is Ryan Hita. Sterling Shepard goes off the board here tonight to the Drunken Puppets at 13:09. Sterling Shepard dealing with a bit of an injury right now. We'll have to see how that plays out. Sounds like he has avoided the worst, but we'll be following that storyline as the Giants have an elite passing offense that we will be paying attention to for show. Then you have Cole Beasley going right after that to Jimmy Wagner. And Justin Tucker, the first kicker drafted tonight, goes to Henry Muto here.
There's 20 points a game.
Henry Muto takes Justin Tucker.
For a few games.
Yeah, and probably 15 the rest of them.
I know,
it's just Justin Tucker. I think he kicks field goals on third down half the time, that coach. He's got to be making more money in real life.
He should make more money than some.
No, he just signed a big extension, I think. He's got to be making more money than some of these players that were drafted ahead of him tonight in this high-stakes draft. He's got to be, which is insane, but it makes sense because Tucker was such a difference maker at kicker last year. And then rounding things out here tonight in the 13th round is Tyler Lockett to Tony Pung. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the Fantasy Sports Radio coverage of this draft. We will continue on at blogtalkradio.com/HSFF Hour. YouTube.com/highstakesfantasyfootball is where you can see the draft board, the streaming draft boards, and we'll have them all up at the FFPC HSFF Hour social media accounts as well as the FFPC message board. So with that, I will tell you that Scott Engel is up next on the Fantasy HOF Hour, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. And we're back. Or should I say, and we're back. I promise, no more breaks the rest of the way tonight.
So you don't tell our Blog Talk people that we're still going to be here?
No, I said we were continuing on the Blog Talk radio feed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It sounded like there was more finality to the.
Well, maybe there was, but so okay, that was round 13 here, I believe. There's a small chance we might get this whole thing in tonight, which would be really crazy. Let's move on and talk about the 14th round here. James Conner to Tony Pung at the 14:01. The Kansas City defense to Henry Muto's Griffins at the 14:02. Kenny Stills right after that is the selection as the third pick in the 14th round to Jimmy Wagner. Jimmy Wagner has now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 receivers through 14 rounds. Zay Jones after that. Zay Jones, the rookie receiver from Buffalo to Bill Stavros' team. And defenses are coming fast in this round. You have Denver Broncos defense going right after that, after Zay Jones, and then Taylor Gabriel, a player that I'm starting to like a little bit more and more. Frank Imbornoni takes him at the 14:06. Arizona defense, Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, and company go to Good to Be King. That is Tony Giustiani and Donald Rich's team tonight. They take the Cardinals defense. Jonathan Williams, the de facto backup to LaShawn McCoy in Buffalo. He goes to Ken Orvitz tonight. And then David Njoku is the tight end, the rookie tight end from the University of Miami, now a Cleveland Brown. He goes to Tyler Lahr. Now Tyler Lahr has 3 tight ends on his squad. That is Witten, Brait, and Njoku. So taking the strategy of I am going to wait on tight end until the 9th round, and he gets Witten, Brait, and Njoku there. Not a bad way to do it, especially in this format where you can, you can start 3 tight ends if you need to on any given week. If one of these guys is on bye or gets hurt, you have another capable guy to stick in there. Witten, obviously, I don't believe is ever going to retire. Cameron Brait really took a step forward this past year. And then David Njoku. The athleticism is off the chart. He, may struggle as a rookie, but we saw Hunter Henry kind of buck that trend last year, having a really solid season for a rookie tight end. And maybe this year, with such a deep rookie tight end class, maybe we see some of these guys hit their rookie year as well. Jeremy Hill is the selection to Chris Holland and Alex Blake. Jeremy Hill going as the number 6 running back to Team Kimura. Team Kimura, who, by the way, in 2015 in this contest was the runner-up, I believe, overall to Blake Pyle. Chris Holland had his team finish in 2nd place. A nice little chunk of change. I believe that was $30,000. He just had jingling in his pocket after his big time performance in 2015. You have Austin Seferian-Jenkins, the new tight end for the New York Jets, going as the second-to-last pick here in the 13th round, a guy that a lot of people are saying could be the lead receiver for the Jets this year, or the leading receiver, leading pass catcher. He's not a wide receiver, but he could be the leading pass catcher for the Jets this year, as he has given up booze, really turned his life around, and seems to be turning some heads in Jets camp this year. He is the second-to-last pick of the 14th round. And then the last pick, of course, the Patriots defense to Frank Slad and Jerry Kaforski. So Frank Slad, Jerry Kaforski get their defense, 4 defenses off the board, 1 kicker off the board, and a whole hell of a lot of everything else thus far. As we are drawing to a close here, we have 6 more rounds of action here, Dave. These when you get into the last 6 rounds of the draft, you're just kind of just punching lottery tickets. You're swinging for the fences. You're doing what you can. Obviously, taking a kicker and a defense here. But I think this is the time of the draft, and I don't think I'm offering anything earth-shattering here. But I am taking guys that are either A, going to be a huge hit for me, or B, guys I can cut in the first preseason waiver wire run that I can dump for a guy who's really been tearing up training camp.
Well, hopefully not quite yet, but in a few rounds later, yes. There's some players out there that certain teams should be targeting, especially if there's certain guys that you want to really solidify the way your roster looks. You should be definitely starting to pick those guys up.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say like in the mid rounds you should be doing that, but definitely as we move forward here on the latter part of this draft, you definitely want to be targeting those upside guys that can help you win the whole thing. So we have started with the 15th round. I'm just doing a quick tally here, and not that this is a huge deal, but you usually want to keep track of quarterback because so many people have waited on quarterback, and they'll wait and not take a quarterback till the mid or late rounds. We've seen guys that have waited until the 18th, sometimes 19th rounds in the Football Guys Players Championship to take a quarterback, loading up on every position. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen anybody, at least to my knowledge, come through with a six-figure grand prize waiting on a quarterback till the 18th or 19th round. You certainly want to maximize your value as best you can. I think that might be going a little bit overboard. But anyway, the quarterback tally right now, as we look at the board tonight, we have 15 of them off the board through 13 rounds here. 15 quarterbacks are off the board, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. I believe that's 7 teams with only one quarterback. We'll see how those teams build up their roster. The important thing I want to point out tonight, Dave, in the tight end premium format, like the Football Guys Players Championship, we have a lot of teams that have at least 2 or 3 tight ends. In fact, there is not one team in this entire draft, except for Henry Muto and his Griffins, who took Gronk in the first round. Everybody else has at least 2 tight ends on their roster tonight. A very important thing to get right if you want to be successful in the Football Guys Players Championship.
Absolutely right. You absolutely do need to do that, and you absolutely got to crush the tight ends, Balky.
How long has it been since I brought up Don Metter's team from?
I don't know, like a week.
Was that 2011 or 2012? I can't remember what year it was.
Oh, maybe 2009.
Yeah.
Dante Rosario.
Yeah, Dante Rosario was his number 1 tight end, and he won the FFPC main event, which was just insane. How many years has the Football Guys Players Championship been going? Do you remember what year that started? Because I know it wasn't the same year as the main event.
I thought it was 2010.
2010. Okay. Fair enough.
I should know this, really.
Well, I mean,
it's 2010.
I'll prep you next time when I say, like, Dave, we're going to do a history lesson on the show tonight, and quiz you.
It's probably on the site because we have the former champs.
No, winner circle. Yeah, if you go to myffpc.com, you
Maybe
can
I'll
see
have to do that.
the players that have won that. Okay, so let's move on here, Dave. Tonight, I think we probably can get through one more round here. Yeah, let's do one more round, and then we'll get into some team analysis. How everybody built these teams, how these guys are planning on crushing this draft and managing this team throughout the year. Spongeworthy goes back-to-back with defenses here, Patriots and then the Seattle Seahawks. So they have 2 defenses in the 14th and 15th round. Rashad Perriman, another pick-to-win type guy. Perriman, who has a lot of talent, hasn't been able to stay on the field. Rashad Perriman goes at the 15:02. Stephen Gostkowski, second kicker off the board, followed by Tyrod Taylor to back up Tyler Lars, Drew Brees, and then Tim Hightower off the board, a solid 15th round pick, as you heard us talk about him earlier. Tim Hightower to Heroes and Villains. That's Ken Horowitz's team. He gets Tim Hightower there. Vernon Davis, followed by Mohamed Sanu after that. Sanu to Frank Imbornoni, Vernon Davis to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Were you going to say something about the winner's circle?
Oh, yeah, 2010 was the year that the wonderful, glorious Football Guys Players Championship started. Although I noticed there's a typo, and in 2009, there's some mention of it in there, like the leading point scorer was supposedly Cocktails and Dreams for that contest when it didn't even exist.
Didn't exist. That's how good Chad Schroeder is, Dave.
We have to fix it.
He is the leading points getter in contests that didn't even happen.
Exactly.
That's how insane he is at fantasy football. Vernon Davis, I like this pick as kind of a flyer in the 15th round as your number 3 tight end. If you're Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich, you get him there. And maybe the Reed toe thing is nothing. Maybe it is something. And if it is something, all of a sudden you have a pretty viable number 3 tight end for you to back up Antonio Gates and Jack Doyle there after you had loaded up on receiver and running back in the first 6 rounds. I like that pick there. It makes a lot of sense. What do you make of this strategy here, too? The next pick right after that is Frank Imbornoni. He gets Taylor Gabriel, and he gets Mohamed Sanu, back-to-back Falcons receivers. That's an interesting strategy. Now, this isn't a DE, so, I mean, obviously he can drop these guys at any time. But do you view Gabriel and Sanu, is there some fantasy value in one of those guys this year as the number 2 wide receiver for Atlanta?
If Gabriel really emerges, I think maybe it's possible, but it hasn't traditionally worked out that way. There's just generally Julio sucks up too many targets. And even as well as Matt Ryan, he played really well last year. It just wasn't consistent. Sanu was not consistent enough to start. You couldn't, at a discretionary level, you wouldn't be happy starting Sanu ever, really.
Right, yeah, exactly. Dan Bailey is the third kicker off the board. He goes at the 15:08 tonight. And then you have Jamal Charles and Shane Vereen. Vereen was one of the guys I touched on earlier. Triple J takes him. I kind of like Vereen this year in that Giants backfield. Kind of, no matter what happens with Perkins or, anybody else back there, I don't want to say his name, Vereen seems to have a role as the pass catcher on that team. Just can't seem to stay healthy. That's his problem.
I think that's the truth.
I remember, was it Andre Williams that got hurt and it looked like Vereen was going to be the guy because he was really the only guy left standing in New York? And then sure enough, he gets a couple of goal line carries. He gets a couple of goal line carries, has a nice game going, 70, 80, 90 total yards, somewhere around there, a couple of touchdowns. And then on that second touchdown or on a short yardage carry, I believe he broke his collarbone or shoulder blade or something like that. And then he was out for the rest of the year. So you gotta be able to stay healthy. As many people in the industry like to say, availability is sometimes the best ability.
Yep.
So Shane Vereen going off to Jimmy Wagner there, followed by Dwayne Allen, and then Eli Manning to back up Cam Newton. Didn't you say that earlier when I said Cam Newton was such a great pick in the 11th round? You're like, yeah, you can get just Eli Manning later, and that's exactly what Tony Pung did.
Good job. Look at the value of Eli. It's like so cheap.
Yeah, it really is.
15-12.
What do you make of the Giants' offense this year?
Even without Sterling Shepard, who cares? You have Brandon Marshall.
Okay.
You have Ingram, who's probably not going to do much, and you have Beckham.
Yeah, and Paul Perkins.
Yes, and you. Paul Perkins, I'm so excited.
Yeah,
he's going to be so great.
I am a little concerned if there's one thing I could do to, if there's one hose I could use to pee on the parade here or throw cold water on the parade. Giants' schedule isn't all that great early on, which might be okay. I mean, maybe they're having to play some come from behind football in the second half, but maybe it'll be just difficult defenses that is going to make bad Eli come out, and I don't think Beckham will suffer, but I could see Marshall suffering and obviously Ingram suffering.
Maybe. I mean, he's a backup, so it's fine. I probably. Tony gave us like 2 seconds of thought. Oh, yeah, Eli, cool.
Just looking at whatever quarterback was at the top of the available players list.
He's the best one left, and then now it's Alex Smith range and so on.
Moving on to the 16th.
Now, I would say now is when that's when you have the Eagles guy coming out. Carson Wentz is the next one who actually has some upside. He'll probably get drafted next at quarterback. That's my guess.
That will pay close attention to that. John Ross to Tony Pung at the 16:01, followed by Eric Swope as the number 3 tight end. Houston Texans defense to Jimmy Wagner. Donnell Pumphrey, the Eagles rookie running back, to Bill Stavros at team 9 there. J.J. Nelson off the board to Ryan Hida, and then Jeremy Langford, Bears running back, to Frank Imbornoni. Cairo Santos is the number 4 kicker selected tonight. He goes to Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Rex Burkhead to Heroes and Villains after that. Matt Bryant is the selection for Tyler Lauer here. Matt Bryant is the number 5 kicker off the board, followed by the Vikings defense for Chris Holland and Alex Blake. How do you normally draft kickers and defenses? Because I think that the analysis everybody used to say in the lazy stuff is take a kicker with your last pick, your defense with your second to last pick. You don't see high-stakes players doing that anymore. You see them drafting them earlier and earlier. How do you normally like to handle those two positions?
I have gone a little bit earlier, but if there's still a skill player I like, I'll generally take the skill player. Like Tim Hightower went here in the 15th round. I would have taken Tim Hightower over any kicker.
Right, I'm with you.
So that's a pick that I would have made. But I don't know. I'm just looking at some of the picks in the 16th round. There's not a lot of skill players I really like that much. So then maybe I would have looked at, if there was a defense I would have liked, I probably would have started that direction and then gone kicker.
In this format, and not even this format, but when you get to the level of high-stakes competition like the FFPC main event, where everything is so cutthroat, there are no sleepers, nobody slips, everybody gets sniped. Is there value in maybe doing a little bit of defense by committee and selecting 2 defenses not in the last round and trying to get an advantage there? Is there something there that you can because you're not going to be able to get a leg up on, any other position unless you really hit on those. But I feel like that's a way you could probably gain an advantage over the other 11 players in your league.
So you're saying taking two semi-elite defenses? Like, like Spongeworthy took New England and Seattle here. Is that what you're kind of
Yeah,
saying?
let's use that as an example.
Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I would consider doing that, sure. I like New England. I like Seattle, both of them.
But, I mean, like, in general, let's say if they weren't elite, what if they were, like, two lesser ones in their schedules? Because, we look at
that's fine. But I'm going to wait. I mean, then I want to wait till, like, the 18th and 19th round. I'm just taking two, like, mediocre defenses.
I got you. Okay, fair enough. So let's move on here.
Go ahead. I'll let you move on, and then I'll talk about later. I'll talk about some good picks.
Okay. Well, you can talk about those good picks right now, actually. I just want to finish off the 16th round. Andy Dalton was the penultimate pick here, going to Biplab Mandel as his backup to Phillip Rivers. And then you have Marquise Lee going to Spongeworthy as the final pick of the 16th round. So let's talk about your favorite picks through 16 rounds here, Dave, or a few of your favorite picks.
Well, actually, Marquise Lee, who you just mentioned, and then I'm going to do this too. I hate to do it, but Cooper Kupp is the first pick of the 17th round. I really like that combination. I mean, both players have some really decent upside. So to get Kupp, who's supposedly going to start, Kupp's the guy that I actually like there. I mean, I think he actually.
Who's his quarterback again?
I know.
All right, just making that point.
But he's now in the 17th round. You're not drafting him in the 11th round. You're not drafting him in the 12th round. And he's a player that, I don't know, I just think that he's kind of the guy that they're not, like, they're just not going to have the tight end production, so I feel like they're going to throw over the middle to him a lot.
The Football Guys subscriber contest, if you're a subscriber to footballguys.com, you have the opportunity to enter that free contest. I don't know when exactly the salaries came out, but I saw them for the first time this afternoon. I formulated my team, and young Cooper Kupp is currently on my squad in that. So I'm kind of with you, I guess.
Well, I mean, okay, if you agree with the contention that Robert Woods is a pedestrian, just an okay journeyman player, that's what I'm saying. You're not saying that, but I'm saying that.
Okay.
And Tavon Austin is the guy who can run fast, but otherwise sucks.
Right, yeah.
Well, you need someone who actually can perform, and I think Kupp, he comes out of college with so many touchdowns. He's actually really an experienced player, so I think there's a chance that as a rookie he could be the guy that emerges.
Well, he definitely could. I mean, it wouldn't be. I mean, didn't Eddie Royal, wasn't he like a player that was, I don't know if anybody's comped him to Kupp, but Royal was a guy that kind of he polished route running in college, came out. And
in the slot, 90 receptions.
And had 90 catches. And who's the other guy that, no, I guess Tajay Sharp is not one I want to bring up to make this argument because he really fell off the face of the earth after the first couple of weeks last year, but I think Eddie Royal is the comp that you can make here to Cooper Kupp as far as how good these guys can be their first year. What do you make of Biplab Mandel taking Josh Gordon in the 1702? I love Biplab. Got to tell you, Dave, Gordon will not be on any of my teams this year.
Well, let's see. Is there anything new?
Googling computer access Josh Gordon.
He said Twitter sets hearts aflutter.
Okay, what did he tweet?
4 hours ago. God is great. That's what he said.
And the praying hands, it looks like.
Praying hands.
Interesting.
That doesn't mean anything. I've seen Gordon tweet that before.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, he says stuff like that all the time.
Okay, all right. Well then,
he's just keeping a positive attitude. I don't see him getting reinstated. Like you were kind of getting there to that point there.
Well, I think that's the inference that everybody was aflutter on Twitter about that. Talk about TJ Yeldon here. I'm going to fix our video stream here for everybody who's viewing it on youtube.com/high stakes fantasy football. Excuse me. Talk about TJ Yeldon because they're talking about him being a significant part of the pass catching running back option. I know you don't like Fournette. But what's the possibility of Yeldon playing a lot of third down action in catch-up football for Jacksonville this year?
Well, they're talking about him playing a significant role, just as you said, which to me is another reason why I don't really care for Leonard Fournette. If he's going to be a first and second down back in a team that's probably going to be behind as a dicey quarterback situation, to me that's just too much risk on Fournette. He's not a three-down back. So that's one of the reasons where I look at Yeldon and I immediately think of Fournette. I'm having real problems with the Jaguars in general. So, I mean, Yeldon, no matter what they're using, what they're going to do, when you have problems at quarterback, and if I am saying that Bortles is going to have a bad season, I have to have problems with Allen Robinson. Even though I love him as the skills, it's really tough for me to take him in the fourth round.
Do you want to, as long as we're doing it here, do you want to play a quick would you? Because I don't think we played a would you rather with you.
We have a few minutes left here. Are we going to analyze these teams?
Oh yeah, great point. I get off. We'll do a would you rather with Allen Robinson a different week. Let's try to fly through these as best we can. Yikes. Okay, this is not going to be great.
That's fine. You can just do them, and I'll just nod or say wrong.
Okay, Can I use your screen though?
Fine,
okay,
sure.
Thank you. So we'll start with Taipei Tony Pung here. Running backs Gillis Lee, Eddie Lacy, Derrick Henry, Samaje Perine, James Conner, DeAndre Washington. Receivers Jordy Nelson, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, Josh Doxson, Tyler Lockett, John Ross. Tight ends Tyler Eifert, Austin Hooper. Quarterbacks Cam Newton, Eli Manning. I see a lot of value on this team, and despite going with the 4 receivers to start and then not taking another one until Doxson in the 12th, this is a strong team.
It is a strong team. I like the receivers. They're great. Tight ends are great. Cam and Eli are fantastic. And the running backs, he acquitted himself really well there. I think it is well put together.
Henry Muto, Joe Mixon, Carlos Hyde, Danny Woodhead, Alvin Kamara. Kamara, actually. I got to get that right. It's Kamara. Mixon, Hyde, Woodhead, Kamara.
Like Camaro.
Exactly. Receiver, Des Bryant, Dante Moncrief, Devontae Parker, Randall Cobb, Corey Coleman, Mike Wallace. Tight ends, Rob Gronkowski, Dwayne Allen, Eric Swope, Ben Watson, and Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. I like what he did at tight end with Swope and Watson, getting him, and then Allen, obviously Gronk's backup there. I like the receivers that he got in those middle rounds, the 7 through 11 rounds is where I think the sweet spot kind of has moved up to. And getting Mixon, Hyde, and Woodhead, we talked about that earlier, like those players as well. Strong draft from Henry Muto, no surprise.
Well, he's got Gronk and Rodgers, so that's really awesome at those 2 positions. I think the Dez pick is kind of an interesting pick. It's fine. And then Mixon, Carlos Hyde, Woodhead, and Kamara, that's a really good running back core. So the question is, right receiver, like you said. I don't really care for Moncrief. I'm a little dubious on Devontae Parker, and Randall Cobb I don't think is all that fantastic either. So I'm a little concerned about the rest of his wide receivers. If they pan out, it seems to be great.
Triple J, Jimmy Wagner, Melvin Gordon, Bilal Powell, Doug Martin, C.J. Procise, Thomas Rawls, Shane Vereen. Receivers, A.J. Green, Terrell Pryor, Cam Meredith, Tavon Austin, Cole Beasley, Kenny Stills. Tight ends, Jordan Reed, Delaney Walker, and Zach Miller. Quarterback, Kirk Cousins. I think the question mark I have on this team is probably receiver depth. I'm not a huge fan of any of the guys he took after Meredith there.
Yeah, I would kind of agree. Austin, Beasley, and Stills, what are you going to get out of those guys? That's a big question mark. The rest of the team, yeah, fantastic, though. Reed and Walker. Reed's got to stay healthy, of course. And I like that Powell pick. I really think Powell's going to be something else this year, even though the team's probably not going to do fantastically well. I just think he's going to catch a ton of balls. I like Kirk Cousins, too.
Drunken Puppets, that's Bill Stavros. He gets Devontae Freeman, Christian McCaffrey, C.J. Anderson, James White, Jamal Charles, Donnell Pumphrey. Receivers, Jamison Crowder, Jeremy Maclin, Tyrell Williams, Robert Wood, Sterling Shepard, Zay Jones. Tight ends, Travis Kelce, Julius Thomas, Charles Clay, Adam Shaheen, Carson Wentz, and Tom Brady at quarterback. We talked about this team, how would it end up after Kelce and Brady, and I think that he did a pretty good job of trying to address the receiver position. Not drafting one until round 5 could be problematic. I don't know if he did it enough. I think that's the question mark I have here, but I'm fine with the running backs, tight ends, and quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think that's where he's going to struggle. He doesn't have an elite wide receiver at all. I mean, Crowder's fine, Macklin's fine, Williams are fine, but they're all WR2s and 3s, and I think that's where he's going to have a weakness. Kelce and Brady are great, but I don't think it quite makes up for the receivers. With comparing this team a little bit to the other team that was Greifen's out of the 11 hole with Gronk and Rodgers, I think that those are better players than Kelce and Brady, and then I think he also popped in Dez. The running backs aren't as good, but so I think that's the one big difference there.
Ryan Hida, team number 8, Jordan Howard, Leonard Fournette, LeGarrette Blount, Matt Forte, and Jonathan Stewart. Receivers, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Marvin Jones, Ted Ginn, J.J. Nelson, Curtis Samuel. Tight ends, Kyle Rudolph, Martellus Bennett, and A.J. Derby. Quarterbacks, Matt Ryan and Dak Prescott. They've started a recurring theme, worried about the receiver depth on this team as well.
Yeah, and Blunt as well, and Forte. We'll have to see how those guys pan out. Blunt, Forte, and Stewart, you put all 3 of them together, one of them has got to do something, you think. I don't like Marvin Jones. Don't really like Ted Ginn that much. At least I don't think he's going to get enough volume there. So I'm a little concerned about that, and, I don't know my thoughts on Bennett.
Frank and Fournette as well, guy that you don't like that much. Frank Imbornoni, LaShawn McCoy, Jay Ajayi, Ty Montgomery, Mark Ingram, Theo Riddick, Jeremy Langford. Receivers, Sammy Watkins, Martavis Bryant, Kenny Britt, Kevin White, Taylor Gabriel, Mohamed Sanu. Tight ends, Kobe Fleener, O.J. Howard, and quarterbacks, Andrew Luck and Ben Roethlisberger. So obviously Frank Imbornoni targeted running backs early. He definitely got them. I think he might have cost himself some receiver depth, and I don't like the tight ends, Dave.
Yeah, tight ends are problematic. Not a big fan of I know that some players like Bryant. I don't like Bryant. Not as big of a fan of Montgomery early. And I think, taking all those running backs hurts me at receiver. Kevin White, too, I'm just not seeing it with him.
Moving on to Good to Be King. That is Tony Giustiniani and Donald Rich. Lamar Miller, Amir Abdullah, Duke Johnson, Giovanni Bernard, Charles Sims, Devontae Booker. Receivers Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, Golden Tate, Emmanuel Sanders, John Brown. Tight ends are Jack Doyle, Antonio Gates, Vernon Davis, and the quarterbacks are Matthew Stafford and Blake Bortles. I'm fine with the quarterbacks, Dave. I talked about how I like the Vernon Davis pick. I'm not a huge fan of the two tight ends before that. Receiver depth is very good on this team. I think the running backs will be okay, although I'm not in love with them.
Some of the players he took, I like the way that he structured his team, but the players that he took are just not players that I'm generally going to be taking. I think he waited a tad too long on tight end with Doyle. And then, I'm not a big fan of Golden Tate, for example. I probably would have rather gone with Crabtree or even maybe Allen Robinson. For some reason, Tate's just I'm not feeling it with him this year.
Would you have taken Jarvis Landry over Golden Tate?
Yeah, I would have taken, for sure. Actually, I didn't see Landry there. That was a nice pick.
Heroes and Villains, Ken Orovitz takes Todd Gurley, Isaiah Crowell, Spencer Ware, Tevin Coleman, Jonathan Williams, Tim Hightower, Rex Burkhead, Jeremy McNichols at running back, Odell Beckham, Michael Crabtree, Adam Thielen, Deshaun Jackson, Rashard Matthews at receiver. Tight ends are Zach Ertz, C.J. Fedorowicz, and Deion Sims. Jameis Winston and Derek Carr make up the quarterbacks. Running backs I'm cool with. I think that they should carry the load. I'm not a Fedorowicz guy. I don't really care for Sims. I think Ertz will be okay. I guess I don't think the tight ends are fantastic by any means. And again, after Crabtree, I like Rashard Matthews, but Thielen and Djax don't get it done for me.
I would have probably gone with like a player like Stephon Diggs instead of Spencer Ware and solidified the wide receiver a little bit more instead of going so heavily at running back.
Tyler Lahr, DeMarco Murray, Marshawn Lynch, Frank Gore, Latavius Murray, Marlon Mack at running back, Antonio Brown, Demaryius Thomas, Allen Robinson, Stephon Diggs, Jordan Matthews, and Terrence Williams at receiver. The tight ends are Jason Witten, Cameron Brayton, David Njoku, Drew Brees, and Tyrod Taylor. I really like this team by Tyler Lahr. I feel like this is probably like a team that I would put together. He needs a tight end to come through, and if they do, I think this team will be in good shape.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, actually. I like the Breeze pick there. I thought he got good value in a number of different spots. Not a big fan of DeMarco Murray. I know that's one of my things I was saying, and I'm still saying the same thing. And Lynch, I don't really like Lynch all that much, but in the fifth round, that's not bad, actually. It's pretty solid. So I like that he went with the first 6 picks, running backs and receivers. And I think Witten at least gets a steady amount of points.
A lot of mileage on those top 3 running backs. I'm just noticing Murray, Lynch, and Frank Gore.
But at least he backed him up with Mack, which was pretty solid.
Yes. Maybe he was listening to us talk about it.
I doubt it.
Okay. Steve Kamara, Chris Holland, and Alex Blake. Ezekiel Elliott, Adrian Peterson, Jacquizz Rodgers, Darren Sproles, Darren McFadden, Jeremy Hill, T.J. Yeldon, Dion Lewis. Receivers, T.Y. Hilton, Alshon Jeffrey, Willie Snead, Pierre Garçon, Eric Decker. Tight ends, Greg Olson, Eric Ebron there, and Marcus Mariota at quarterback. I like this squad too. These guys knew after taking Elliott they would have to hit the running back position pretty hard, and they did with Peterson, Rodgers, Sproles, McFadden, Hill, Yeldon, Lewis. It goes on from there. Receivers, to me, are strong, to quite strong, and I like Olson and Ebron there. So good job by these guys once again.
I felt they did really well at tight end. I think their tight ends are actually kind of underrated. I mean, Olson and Ebron, that's a pretty solid duo. You have the upside with Ebron, and you have the steady Eddie Olson, so that could really pan out for him. I like the way the receivers worked out. I like waiting on that second running back. I don't know that I would have made it AP, but if they like Adrian Peterson, if Peterson does actually, recover some of his past glory, this team could be amazing, actually.
Very well could be. Then you have Biplab Mandel's House of Cards, Le'Veon Bell, Paul Perkins, Kareem Hunt, Robert Kelly, Joe Williams at running back. Receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, Doug Baldwin, Jarvis Landry, Julian Edelman, Corey Davis, Brashad Perriman, Josh Gordon, Brandon Coleman. Tight ends, Hunter Henry, Evan Ingram, Austin Seferian Jenkins, Phillip Rivers, and Andy Dalton are the quarterbacks. So I like the quarterbacks here, Dave. The receivers are obviously very good when you use 4 of your first 5 picks to get them. You have Bell leading the way at running back as well. You look at the tight ends, I like Henry, but when you're not coupling him with a semi-reliable guy, you're waiting until Evan Ingram and Austin Seferian Jenkins. Bit of a question mark there, but I do like the upside of those at least those 2 tight ends there.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk at tight end, and that's that's just kind of what's going to happen. So he needs Henry to break out. If that happens, this team's in good shape. I have to spend more time on Gronkowski, Cooks, and Edelman and just figure those targets out. I might need to my daughter was taking this thing with the NSA. She might have to hack into Wayne Ellis's Excel doc and get me those targets.
Or you could ask Wayne. I mean, he might.
Yeah, I could probably just ask him. Yeah.
Probably easier to hack it though.
Yeah, it'd be cooler to hack it.
It'd be cooler to hack it.
Maybe I'll send a little Facebook private message. Hey
there
man, what are the targets looking like over in New England?
Perfect. Is that your voice on Facebook Messenger?
That's how it goes. Yeah.
Got it.
Hey man.
Spongeworthy, Frank Slad, and Jerry Kaporsky here. Let's talk about their team. David Johnson, Dalvin Cook, Terrence West, Jamal Williams, Chris Thompson, and Deontay Foreman at running back. Brandon Cooks, Larry Fitzgerald, Kelvin Benjamin, Brandon Marshall, Quincy Enunwa, Marquise Lee, and Cooper Kupp at receiver. Tight ends are Jimmy Graham and Jared Cook, and Russell Wilson as the quarterback. I look at this squad, Dave, and I like the Graham pick. I'm not a big fan of Jared Cook this year, so the tight end depth to me is a little questionable. The running backs, after Cook, it gets dicey too with West, Williams, and Thompson. Receivers should be good. I like them, but I think this team it'll hinge upon tight end depth and running backs.
This is another team that's really similar to how I would have drafted it because I would have taken a tight end pretty early here. I like the Russell Wilson pick. The only pick I really didn't like so much was Terrence West. Otherwise, I really like the way this team turned out. I love the receivers. I mean, I love even Enunwa, Lee, Kupp. Even though he's probably going to have to cut one of those guys later.
Yeah.
I like the team a lot.
Very good analysis by the Dizzle, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. That is going to do it for us tonight. I want to thank Jimmy Wagner for calling in. Technical difficulties prevented Farrell Elliott from coming on tonight. We'll get him again coming on the show soon. Draft boards will be posted for this over the weekend. Next week, Michael Nazarek from ffmastermind.com at our normal 10-9 Central Time. He will talk to us about pros versus Joes. Make those Planet Hollywood reservations. Sign up for myffpc.com for drafts. Your weekend starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com that was broadcast live and heard around the world. Eric and Dave will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from a guest much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Him again, the sound the engine in is like a bird. You see fireworks and Corvette tires skirt the boulevard. I know how you work, I know just who you are. See, use a bitch, your hormones probably switch inside your DNA.
So Electric Relish didn't want us to end the draft didn't want us to end the show because the draft wasn't over. Draft is over. All 20 rounds. Nice job.
Oh, did it? Oh.
Good brisk pace by everybody tonight. Kern Reeves says we're hitting our peak.
Oh, that's good.
I don't know about that, man. I feel like I am sliding down the hill, and hopefully at the bottom of that hill waiting for me is a nice long nap.
How do you make a summer day sparkle? That's 0 calorie, 0 sweetener LaCroix. Sparkling water naturally essenced with flavors like tangerine and berry. Available at Target. The perfect way to make your summer sparkle. Another, please. Good. Very good. How do you make a summer day sparkle? That's 0 calorie, 0 sweetener LaCroix. Sparkling water naturally essenced with flavors like tangerine and berry. Available at Target. The perfect way to make your summer sparkle. Another, please. Good. Very good.